There we go. Talking about Mr. Wagner.
What's up?
I hope you're all awake.
Not, it will be.
Something like that.
First couple ones are like all-out sprints. There's a lot of recovery though. It's like 90% recovery for this test.
So every block is fully recovered before you start?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Power meter. Dang it. Thought I'd have an excuse if my pedal's not calibrating to not do this.
Oh man, come on.
Looking for all the excuses.
Well, if you break your chain in the third block, well,
Hey, good
Good
idea, man. That's a good idea. I like the way you think, Jerry.
yeah, well, that happens if you just had to replace a chain.
Okay. So we should see PMAC in here.
I don't my chat's over.
I'm gonna call this one. Watch Wags suffer.
I like that. That'll get people to watch. All those people that had to sit through all their dad jokes.
Payback. Payback on
Say
Wags.
that. Yeah.
Hey, good morning, Grinch. Good morning. What's going on, man?
Gotta make sure I type in this testing name properly. What's it called again?
Our performance decoder. Let's see.
I mean the
INSCYD. INSCYD. Power performance decoder.
NSCYD. What does that even stand for?
Inside. The word inside. That's all. What are you up to today, Grinch? You riding? Got Justin here loading up onto TeamODZ live channel. He's gonna be doing a multiple FTP test. Grinch is about to do his first race today, but after his 7-mile hike. Yeah, but after his 7-mile hike yesterday, he can't even move really. He thinks he's gonna rest. Oh, the leg's coming back.
No resting in a race.
Did you say his INSCYD?
INSCYD. No, INSCYD.
I always think in sync when I see this.
Yeah. It's okay.
Look at that.
Okay. Some titles.
That sounds smart, Rich. Ooh, that is loud. Let me bring that audio down. There we go.
Okay.
So it looks like I have an unexpected week off. One of my employees tested positive for COVID-19.
Oh
So everyone's got to watch for symptoms for the next 7 days as we reschedule all of our patients and then reassess at the end of the week on how everyone's doing. So,
no. Oh. And you have to clean out the office and all those fun things.
yeah. There we go. Let's wait for this thing to come online.
Okay, let's see.
You can handle your shares if you like. Don't worry about other stuff.
Yes, that would be great.
Good.
I'm trying to. PMAC is awake. He did respond. I said, ready when you are. He goes, you want me to just drop in? I said, come to Discord. Let's see.
Ek dan slagery op. Wil dit gaan tot 3 kilometer. Dis dit. Ek het besluit. Kyk hier. Ek mag nie eet nie.
Let's see which.
Yes,
Good morning. You just joined in. Hey, thanks, Bob. Thanks for following, man. Yeah, we're tackling the 4 Horsemen today. Had a couple things going on TeamODZ Live. But yeah, thanks for jumping in, guys. Working low cadence, hitting right that sweet spot zone on every climb. We'll do recovery in between. Some low cadence work. Really switch it up.
I get this started.
Yeah. Just let me know. Jerry, I was gonna ask you.
There he is.
Nice to be back.
There he is. Okay.
Sure he's not
Okay, you should be able to turn on your camera, PMAC. You got yourself muted.
He's good.
Copy, copy. Can you hear us, PMAC?
think I got my green screen figured out for OBS.
Hey. Yes, you do over here. Okay.
Cool. Thanks for the ride on, man.
There it
Appreciate that.
is. Let's see. All right, PMac. Let's hear some talking.
I'm here. Can you
Now I
hear
can
me?
get- Oh, now I can hear you.
Here we go.
Good guy. I've never done this on my phone like this. All right.
Okay, you gonna bring in your video?
I can jump
You
out.
should be able to start video. No, we can have two, Jason. Two's fine.
Oh, I'm not going to do the
Audible.
test.
I know you're not gonna do the test. I'm just saying,
Oh.
if you want to heckle me,
Yeah, I'll be here.
which I'm sure you will be. Yeah. So you can turn your camera on Discord. It's fine. And you should have permission, team. There we go. Hey. Okay.
What?
Perfect.
What's- Oh, no audio now for him.
For some reason, I'm going to click the talk on my phone. I don't know what that's about.
That's good now. I can hear you now.
Yeah. Okay. You have the ability to turn off push to talk. It's probably set on a per device level. So you might have to go
Settings.
change that audio setting. Yes. Let me turn up his volume a little bit. Okay.
All right. How's that?
Oh, that's
Hey,
better.
better.
All right.
Okay.
We work with that.
Okay. I think I've got the multi setup ready. Get the
Awesome.
splash screen. Get the splash screen rolling on the stream. Okay.
Oh, wait. Where's makeup?
Should
There's makeup.
where's with makeup?
We tried early on, and it wasn't helping him look any better, so we just said, forget it.
I kept misinterpreting it, and I thought they wanted me to make out with them. I was like, it got awkward.
So I'm really interested in Justin today. I'm sitting here doing low cadence to somehow get rid of VLA max in my
Ah,
high VLA max body because of all the years of crit racing and high aerobic work.
okay. Awesome. What
Okay.
was your VLA max number?
Oh, I can pull it. It was almost so far to the right that my triathlete inside coach was like, yeah, I mostly deal with triathletes, and I've never seen a number like this. I'm like, I don't have many road racer kit racers, huh? Yeah, you're probably
Right.
only my second cyclist only.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
I can pull it up.
Okay, so our splash screen's live.
I got
We're
you.
gonna
I'll take it from
We're gonna switch to having our video live here. Jason's gonna share us out on Facebook and etc. And we are going live with video and audio in 3, 2,
It's very official.
1. Welcome everyone to the live stream, except those of you that aren't welcome. Which is probably this guy right up here in the red, who's the most not welcome today. What's up, PMac?
What's
Yes.
up, everyone?
I guess we could say we're glad to have him, but I don't know. I'm about to not really be glad to have him because he's about to make me suffer a lot. And hold on, I'm gonna add an extra filter or crop onto Jason here. Get his sidebars gone. Come on
Just
the fly
delete.
cropping.
Lay it in.
Hey. So welcome everyone. So what we got going on today is I'm doing an INSCYD inside power performance decoder test.
Yes.
Yeah, every time I see it written out, I think in sync. So just in case we break out into boy band songs, that would never happen on this channel. Just tell us who you think, which member of the NSYNC PMAC is, which member Jason is, and which one I am. And if you know any of the NSYNC band names, will be concerned. But glad to have you guys all here and get some last minute stream stuff right. Okay, so all right, now Jason's not centered, of course. Okay, now he's centered, head chopped off. Perfect.
I got it. We're good. Roll it.
So while I'm pulling up the workout here on the screen here, why don't you give our viewers a little bit of a what am I gonna be doing here, PMAC? Besides building up my anger towards you and hate, which is already at a maximum level, so I'm not sure how it can get any worse throughout the test here.
I know. Well, I do have to point out that the only way I can make you suffer was to not be on my bicycle and to give you a hellish workout. Because only you make me suffer on a bike. So, I appreciate this chance.
Win! I'll take it as a win.
I'll do whatever it takes. Well, all right. So the quick rundown. We only here inside Neurostation. We only just started using the Inside Test protocol. We've worked it into a 4-week camp experience we call Best Bike Camp. The reason why we do it, our athletes are distributed everywhere across the globe, and so I'll get data from them. Whatever training log software they use, I get tons of data that roll in. But it's really hard for me to parse all of it and say, who is this athlete? Where do they fit in the spectrum? And what's the best way to work with them moving forward? And the Power Performance Decoder test, in addition to being a ring that you get in your box of cereal, also tells me exactly where you are in your performance.
I thought it came with your Ovaltine.
Oh my God.
Hey, man. You and I are from different eras. You know the story. I'm not sure. I don't know. And so, I've got a boy band story. We'll tell that one later. But not related to the test. So what's really interesting about the test, I found that it does a really accurate job of capturing what your FTP is. Not sure, people do the 20-minute test and like, my FTP is this, and it's like, not really. It's a little bit less than that.
So he's trying to make me suffer, and he wants my FTP number to be lower. I see where this is going.
Yes. Did you get the clothespin I sent you to put over your nose?
Your nose. The mask, yeah.
There are 2 more clothespins you have to put on that are optional. That's the later part of the test. So it's arranged so the testing that Justin's going to be doing today, it's 4 different intervals. So we have a 25-second, all of them are seated, 25-second test. Then we have a 3-minute test, 6-minute test, and a 10-minute test. They're all spaced out with recovery, and all the recovery is meant to be pretty easy. And the idea being that the 4 different test intervals are going to give us snapshots of each different energy system, basically, that Justin uses, whether he's super high intensity in sprint. Many of you have experienced this, but we'll actually get some numbers with it. I'll have to see if Justin, I still have to sign the NDA so I can talk about the numbers, or is that a separate, separate piece?
It extends for the 90 minutes of the test. You can say whatever you want. Yeah, it's okay. 90 minutes are open.
Right.
Yeah,
We're so secretive about my numbers here because we live stream every second of my workout with power numbers included.
It's still fun just to say. We get a great sense of those numbers, and so we get a spectrum. We get a bunch of data, and I can go through some of that in a minute. So basically, on the test protocol, what I always tell people is the 2 most important things are, 1, you're always seated, and then 2, that you got to sort of kick off every interval doing your best through that interval, and then if it's okay if it declines. So for 3 minutes, it's like doing a 1-minute test, and then 2 minutes of hanging on. 6 minutes is like a 2-3-minute test, and the rest of the time hanging on. We don't want you to, I don't want to say sandbag it, but go really steady in the last minute, be a hero, and really push up those numbers. That really. So
if my numbers drop to like your level at the end, that's okay? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Stopping is completely okay. No. What's happened to me? I'm no good. I'm a triathlete.
Okay, so I've got up here on the screen, I got the workout we're going to follow. You can see the block here, there's a bunch of free ride sections. I'm going to get that started. There's going to be a lot of text on the screen. And, but there's going to be a lot of free ride, warm up, easy stuff. Basically, yeah, because it's like do nothing, and then do everything. Do nothing, do everything. I mean, I wrote this workout once. It's really simple. Do nothing, do everything. Rinse and repeat.
Well, especially the 25-second test interval, you need 2 minutes of like half a watt per kilo.
Oh,
I think they also said like zero. They want 0 cadence. Yeah.
0
Justin's been
cadence.
hacked.
Okay, so I've got erg mode on. It wants me to run erg mode just because they don't want me to do extra power at all, right? That's the whole point between the erg mode.
Exactly. Yep. We're using everything to try and contain you, Justin. Send in erg mode.
Yeah. He said we were going to really hate him at the end of the test, and I said, if my hate can't get any stronger, does that mean we'll already know my power numbers and I don't have to do the test? I mean, I've been working on getting my numbers up, so I got the weight confirmed to scale this morning. Weight is trending up. That's good. Oh wait, we didn't want that number up. Was that one? I'm just trying to make excuses here so that when my numbers come out below P-max, we know I'll be like, well, you know, I was in the middle of a training block. I was live streaming. I had to look at P-max face while I was doing the test, amongst other factors.
Well, the whole session ends up being close to about 90 minutes. So there's plenty of time for people to step away, celebrate your suffering, and then come back for the next edition of the suffering. Well,
It's good to know. I've got 10,000 juice boxes because I can mute all his dad jokes for all the in-betweens. So like, yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
I love it. I was going to say, if you're trading in dad jokes for excuses, I'm going to get out my notebook. I'll start writing them down. I haven't heard a lot of your excuses.
It's very close. From what I understand, it's very close to the triathlon excuse, from what I know.
Ah. I like it.
Hey, Paul, thank you for liking the stream. Glad to have you here. We got, let's see, 4.5 minutes left in this warm-up.
Okay.
Then a minute 15 free ride. It looks like I get a couple, or something. I just see a lot of free rides and warm-ups on the side. So I'm like, this is my kind of workout.
It's all hidden.
Free rides and warm-ups.
Right. Yeah, you got a couple test intervals. Make sure you got the gearing selection right. Yeah, you don't want to
That's
to max power quickly, but you don't want to run out of gears.
Okay.
What kind of cassette do you have on the rear, Justin?
I've got an 1128.
Okay. All right. So there'll be some gaps in there. You want to find your happy place. You know, especially because you're seated, right? Like, are you big ring? Are you small ring? What do you want to be?
I think for the sprints, we'll definitely want small ring, yeah. Because I mean, I can't get. Oh wait, never mind. No, I somehow tried to tie that into a PMAX sprint, small ring. Didn't work. It failed.
Does this standard test have the practice sprints in it as well? PMAX, this one.
Yeah. It does,
Okay, good. Yeah, that's super key. That's super key for him to get right. Yeah. All right, cool.
Efforts to be completed as free ride efforts on a flat road. Oh, I chose a hilly road in Zwift, so it's not going to work out.
You'll have to start over.
Regardless of training. Dang it!
You'll have to do it twice now and then on a flat road, and then we'll compare the nodes.
Man.
Yeah, that's all that means.
Exactly.
That's all that means.
We're on the same
Your
page.
smart trainer will provide resistance. What about the smart Alex on the live stream? Doesn't say anything about the smart Alex I have to listen to in the workout file.
So
Clarity there.
Well, my Zwift companion app said unable to load workout files, so that's good. I mean, that's my other excuse. I couldn't even see it on my mobile companion.
Life is so hard. I remember when we had no mobile companion.
Yeah. Some of us don't have any.
You probably remember when there was no companions, period. Yes. Dang, Jason beat me to the punch.
Missed it. I was like, come on.
So bad.
Oh.
Justin, what course did you pick?
Sand and sequoias.
Man, you can't get enough of that Watopia, can you?
Oh no, all of us.
Or
First test interval, 20-second maximal seated sprint. I thought about doing it on Mars, actually. But my numbers would have been out of this world, so we decided to stay away from that. The test sprint is performed in a free ride section with the resistance coming from the trainer. That's right. Andy says this is payback for all the dad jokes.
Oh my God.
You must begin the sprint from a period of pedaling below half a watt per kilogram. Must stay seated for the entire sprint. Performing any test outside of the seat will lead to incorrect results. Anything you say or do can be held against you in the court of instinct. Wait, what? What? Where'd that come from? No gear changes in the sprint effort. I was going to do a bike swap mid-sprint, so good thing they told me I can't. We're going to choose your gear that has maximum power as quickly as possible.
Right.
You're looking for peak power to occur in the opening 6 seconds. Then hang on for as long as you can.
That's right.
So we're getting close. So I'm almost done with the 7-minute warm-up. I'm guessing these 4 free ride blocks are when they're telling me to bring the power down. Thank you for follow. Glad to have you on the stream. I'm about ready to suffer here. So, okay. Free ride for a minute 15.
Right. Everybody watch carefully.
Free ride portion, you will be guided through 2x6 seated sprint, 2x6 second seated sprints to get a feel for the resistance.
Yep.
Must start the test sprint from a period of easy pedaling under half watt per kilogram. So I want to be in the gear I want already now?
Yeah, ideally.
Yeah. So watch carefully. We have never watched Justin ride this slow. Take a flip.
Bring your power down to under half watt. So I'm doing a cadence of like 12.
This is the speed at which Justin does chores around the house, so he doesn't have to ever do chores.
Maximum power as quickly as possible. No gear changes. Ensure your power is under half a watt per kilogram. Okay, we're at 0.4.
Well done. Always pushing the limits.
0.2.
This is where your avatar gets mad at you.
Okay, first 6-second sprint. This is supposed to be all out or a test?
Yes, it's a sprint.
7 seconds. 7 seconds. There you go. Is that a good gear?
Yeah, I think so. About up to 1150.
That was 83 cadence? Is that 83 cadence on the top? Did you see that?
Maybe I'll go down 1 gear.
Yeah. You usually sprint 90 plus, so I think
much higher cadence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 120.
Exactly. Did you say 1150, you big jerk?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's okay. You know what that means, T-Mac? That just means VLA max. That means after today, we won't see him sprint because he's got to do everything low cadence and everything low power to get rid of VLA max.
Exactly.
You know, I know.
You know, I got you.
Your power down under half, nice and slow.
Nice and slow.
Under half watt per kilogram. Okay, PMAC pace. Just have them change the text here to say PMAC pace. I'll get it. I'll understand.
This is actually painful for me, not just to watch, but I'm also getting insulted.
What's up, Mark? Welcome to the stream.
Oh man. Hey Jerry, thanks for joining in. Here we go. Spin. 80, 90, 98, 104, 109, 111, 113. I think that's right. You gave us 1 gear. That was just 1 gear.
Yeah.
Okay. How's that?
It's good.
Sure.
About 4 down from the biggest and the big ring, so 8 minutes to cool down from those, I think.
Yeah, I got some time. The key is you got to be able to try and you got to sustain that cadence for the whole 25 seconds. So can you sit on 113 for another?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
I'll hit like 120, sometimes 130 in a sprint.
Yeah. His zone will be way up higher. See, I'm here to keep him honest. Yeah. I'm here to keep him honest because you don't want him to sandbag because we see him in the front of the race. I know what he does. We'll make sure he gets the number.
All right.
Yeah.
Good God.
Oh, I guess
did get some vitamin D. You can see my Apple Watch tan line, maybe.
Oh,
no,
no,
can't really.
All I see
Trying
is
to prove I did actually go outside.
pasty
all
white.
I see is my pasty white legs.
That's it. That's all I see. All right.
God.
So VO2 came in, PMAC at 71, and then my VLA max came in at 0.81.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sure Justin's gonna be the same, man. With how much explosive anaerobic he has, I'm sure he's gonna be up there.
Totally. Right. So that VLA max number. That's your maximum glycolytic power.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
total non-aerobic, no oxygen. Cellular level, just like a trained body to divert resources to create instant power.
Have you seen Justin eat sugar? He's gonna be pissed when you tell him that. He's gonna be pissed when you tell him he's only gonna do 10 to 15 grams per hour because he can only eat half a Big Bar per hour.
During his 10 or 15 packages of these. Got it. Okay. Got it. Oh, I got that down.
Good God. Yeah. No. So it's a fascinating. So basically, a lot of the data you get out of the test, not just this number, not this type, right? Like what are you using, but what are you using for as a source of fuel in your muscles? So in that case, that higher end stuff, you're just burning through sugars, burning through the super high lactate. You're just like, I love it, everything.
Burning out triathletes from Endurance Nation, especially PMAC. I burned through them pretty quickly too.
All these little triathletes.
We're like, stop being Sergi, go steady.
Oh man.
I know, like that's why I don't really challenge you in the 40-kilometer races because I'm a triathlete. My sprint starts at 50K out.
I got to point to the state championship jersey where I sprinted from 50K out as well. They never caught me.
Fair enough. But it's really it definitely gives us a lot of great information. So whether you're a triathlete or a cyclist, we can start to determine lots of great stuff about your fitness in terms of what intervals are great for you, right? So depending on what your goals are, if you're saying, hey, I'm going to do remember you're doing that time trial for a while. You're like, hey, I'm doing this, 20-minute, 25-minute time trial. That's a different energy system than you'd be doing if you were saying, hey, I'm doing an hour TT, or I'm going out and doing stage racing, and I got like 3 days in a row, and I'm doing 80 to 100 miles with sprints in there. What does that look like? So there's different focus training you can do for each type.
Got it. But
there's also other good stuff you get to learn. Like you get to learn your maximum lactate combustion rate, which I think is really awesome. That's kind of your
amazing.
It's called peak recovery. So that's the number you want to go to after you've done intervals. That's where your body's just chewing up all the lactate in your system, making it much more effective. So people will naturally gravitate far lower than that. They'll be like, oh, well, maybe you don't, Justin. I do.
I just lay down after my sprints. Don't even spin the legs, just lay down. That's optimal, right?
Totally. The fetal position.
I just lay down and say, PMAC wasn't even within 10 kilometers before I started sprinting, but I still beat him. Yes.
Exactly.
Oh man,
this is a tough way to kick off my week. Man. I'm gonna read some self-help books when we're done.
Oh man.
So bad.
Do we trust Garmin's VO2 max guesstimator? Asks Eugene Chan.
Ooh.
Do you, PMAC? Let's hear about it.
Wait, say that again?
Do you trust Garmin's VO2 max guesstimator?
Oh, no. Hell no.
No.
I mean, they're about as good at estimating VO2 as they are about keeping their servers away from ransomware attackers.
Yeah.
No.
No,
So that means as long as you have enough money, you can have VO2. That's all that means, right? You got money, you can buy VO2.
Yeah.
that is a good question, though. We did have someone in the first session of Best Bike Camp who is a runner, so is very familiar with Garmin's VO2, but was doing stuff on the bike and was like, hey, wait a minute, my VO2 is this. And I was like, how'd you know your VO2 is that? And he's like, oh, my watch tells me all the time what my VO2 is. And I was like, no.
No.
Yeah. I tell people Garmin's version of VO2 is kind of like the food pyramid that the government gives you to tell you what you should be eating. You're like, it looks good, it makes sense, it's not relevant. Don't do it.
I like it. Yeah.
So,
Okay, must be seated.
Justin's got
Hey, we're
2
getting
minutes
close
here.
to the start of the 2-minute free ride. So I got 2 minutes until the 2-minute free ride before the sprint.
whoa, man, you are ready. You're so ready.
No commands, Matt. Sorry. We're gonna need you to have to come in and program that. Sam's saying controlled environment. So this is the closest that a remote athlete will be able to get this controlled environment. Maybe PMAC can talk a little bit about what Insight has done in comparison of how they developed this test in line with the lab testing and how it correlates. Do you have some information on that, on how well they did?
I've got a little bit. So I mean, they've definitely done. The software is really useful and intuitive for coaches behind the scenes in terms of what we can do. I haven't even started talking about that. But they've done a great job with these 4 different interval levels. We get a sense of the complete anaerobic glycolytic, and we get sort of VO2. Then we get into the threshold work, and by stacking them through the software, we get that profile action of who you are. They've done basically, I think, I would consider it, pretty crafty stuff, right? Like, we know your maximum glycolytic power, and they've been able to infer a lot of other stuff. Like, if they can look at your chart and say 100% this is who you are, this percent of you is completely glycolytic, then the rest of you is aerobic. They're able to do some really fancy sort of inverse math to figure out what things look like. And we've had athletes do both. They've shown up with lab tests and done the Insight test, and the numbers are scarily comparable. Unbelievable is what you can get. So
They're claiming single-digit accuracy, 2 to 5. Is that the number you remember?
They say 2 to 5. Yep, 2 to 5% accuracy. Yep.
Lab test versus performance decoder with the coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Awesome, man.
Okay, so
Okay, ready.
here we
You're ready. Here it
go.
comes.
So in this really low power section, I should be in the gear already, right? Or should I shift right before the sprint? Does it matter?
If you can be in the gear and turn the 0.5, then fine. But if it's uncomfortable,
We'll stay in my small ring, same cassette, and then right before the sprint, I'll switch. So
right before the cassette, you'll drop your chain.
exactly.
Okay, perfect.
Yep, I'm gonna try to break my chain right before the sprint. That's the important part, so that I have another excuse.
Here's a good point for conversation. So we've got someone on Facebook saying they're waiting till after all the Corona stuff to do a VO2 max, and I think VO2 max, and PMAC can speak to this, is only part of the equation. Because having a high or low VO2 tells you so much, but as we know as coaches, it's not a predictor of how fast or slow you are, right, PMAC? It just tells you one thing. Right. Yeah. So having the picture, I think, like this is key.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, also simply because the time for making the change, it's no small feat. Like for someone like you to get that high VLA number down, it's a couple months. Anytime you get a head start on that, the better. You don't want to. You wait till January, you just lost 5 months. I think.
All right, we got 45 seconds until the sprint here.
All right, here we go.
Trying to go as low as possible here.
That's right.
I should already be in my sprint gear, they say. Okay, shifted to the big ring.
Here it comes.
Going at like 10 cadence.
All right. So ready.
We're at 20 watts.
Calibrating seismic detectors. Ready.
We start in 20 seconds. Okay. How low can you go? And of course, my avatar stops.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That's it.
There we go. Here we go. 10, 25, 1163, 1173, 1205. 1205 is the peak. 1200. Will we get it back? Come on. 1150. 1150 steady. You got it. Welcome to a high VLA max. Thank you very much.
Mic drop.
Wow. That's crazy.
Indoor cyclists break the inside test from so much indoor short racing. VLX max scale has to be extended.
Exactly. We gotta move it over.
That's right.
Crazy. We'll give you time to recover, Justin, and to eat 27 million grams of sugar right now, very quickly. Go ahead. Mainline it.
Where's the IV? Was able to produce a maximal effort. Maybe. Yeah. It definitely would have dropped PMAC. That's for sure.
You might have dropped 2 PMACs, actually.
Ooh. Is that like a
I think you did.
double cheeseburger? Double Mac?
Those numbers are dumb.
Big Mac?
So Matt, Justin, while he catches his breath, I got it. Matt, he's using a Kinetic Smart Trainer. So, did Justin ever tell you he's a ambassador for Kinetic? I just wanted to let you know. Do you have additional weights on it? No, that is just in sprint. Yeah. So I guess on the conversation of VO2 max, obviously we understand that it's not a metric to target, essentially telling us how much oxygen that we're patient. But I think with a lot of the reading feedback, really just tells us if we've been training. Because if you're a long-term athlete, you'll naturally have a elevated VO2, and really, once you get above 60, 70, I mean that just tells you that you've been training, versus not on a 30 or 40 range, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to look at it. Some people will look at it as, oh, my VO2 is X, I need to get it to Y. And it's all training affects your VO2. The longer you've been at the game, the higher that engine is. Absolutely. So, right. So if you come in at that 40 range, and some people just are because that's their life, right? They can only train 45 minutes an hour a day. That's their story, which is fine. You can, improve your power at VO2, but obviously if you have a chance to get out and do more training, like you can, I don't know, like get rid of your entire family for several days, somehow, hypnotizing your wife to take the children away, and then you can just go ride your bike like 240 miles. You could do that.
50. 250.
Just checking to see if those neurons are still firing like the muscles in your legs.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. Right. So some of the other stuff we get out of the test, I think we can talk about while Justin's recovering. So we get the FTP number, we get the VO2, the percent, all the stuff that goes along with that. As we were talking about before, we get a sense of the energy sources, which is really interesting as well. So you get a chart that talks about fat max and carb max, and it's talking specifically about energy sources that your muscles are using. And so that's really interesting as well in terms of how effective you are. So athletes with a high VLA, they're super carb oriented. As a result, they're not super efficient at the longer distance. So faster athletes will do really well, but then they got to go back and sit in the group and be like, I got to recover, right? Cavendish just got to sit in there and pray for the next sprint, right? But depending on what your goals are, you don't necessarily want that. But what those numbers are great at, it tells us sort of what your peak power is at that carb max rate. So for some people, they may not be fueling. They guesstimate the band for carb max is anywhere from 60 grams to 90 grams per hour, depending on your size, effort, etc. So you fall in that range, but it'll plot your.
What about your chewing capacity? Does your chewing capacity affect carbs per hour?
We're talking straight IV.
Oh, okay.
That's a burrito an hour for you. So what's interesting about that for athletes is they can look and say, oh, okay, if I'm trying to put out, if I eat this much per hour and I'm happy riding at this power number for people doing time trials and so on, you're never tapping into your stored glycogen whatsoever. So you can kind of roll along at that number and be pretty happy. If you're trying to change the power outputs, those numbers change as well. For some athletes, it's really eye-opening. They've been under-fueling this whole time and don't realize that, you know, they say they wanted to ride an hour at 275 watts and their carb max is 240, but they've been riding an hour 270, but they've only been fueling for 240 or even worse than that number. They're just using all their stored glycogen. So if you fall in that category, your pre-ride food's got to be, you know, on point. You got to have a ton of glycogen ready to do that work. And especially when you start getting into, well, you know, we talk triathlon a lot inside the team here in Durham Station, but for cyclists like you guys, if you're doing multi-day stage races and you're just, you know, crushing through your stored glycogen on a daily basis, and then you, like Justin, you've got to go for all those interviews and things like that. It really sort of impacts your ability to show up the next day and be excellent.
Mainly it's just Strava at the finish line asking me for a title and description.
These things happen. So that's really helpful as well, I think, to sort of understand utilization-wise, because a lot of athletes, I don't know how it is in the cycling world, but I know for triathletes as well. I'm like, what's your nutrition plan? They're like, oh, every time I see someone, I just do what that guy does. You know, he's really fast. He lives near me. Or, you know, people haven't really thought about personalizing what that nutrition looks like. And so to get some numbers around that, I think helps athletes who are more analytical make some smart decisions about fueling with their workouts as well. That's huge.
So Justin's 1 hour fueling used to look like. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Jason.
I said Justin's
I got to stop for my sprint interval.
I said, Justin's 1 hour fueling used to look like this. It will soon look like that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's like, I only have a year's supply of those shoes. And then like after test, oh, I have a 6-year supply of
Exactly.
those shoes. It's so good. So helpful. But I think another aspect of the software that's really awesome is we can run virtual tests off of you as well. So we say, what happens if these are Justin's numbers? This is what he looks like. Here's his profile. What happens if we...
Does it need a full body shot?
That's a negative. From the side? Or from the rear?
Can I suck in for the full body shot?
I think most of the people only know your full body shot like this from the back.
Yeah.
I think that's technically clean. We could use that.
Oh, what's up, Sam? Hey, Eugene. Glad to have you guys in the chat. Whew, okay, so we're about 4 minutes away from the 3-minute test.
Okay. Awesome.
Sounds terrible.
Remember, right. So you're
anything
thinking
over
about,
a minute, I'm like, that sucks.
You're thinking about your 1 minute power number. You want to kind of sit on that, and then the 3-minute one I think is easier mentally because we all have a slightly inflated expectation of our 3-minute power. The 6 and the 10 are sort of like, oh, wait a minute, I can't. There's not really faking the funk at a 10-minute interval.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, Justin, you don't even do 10-minute intervals, do you? You just do 25 seconds at like 9 gigawatts and then just like post, right? Isn't that what happens?
Well, if I did a 10-minute interval, you'd never see me, that's for sure.
But thanks to technology, your dad jokes would always be right here in my ear.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was one comment we got at camp. They're really excited that they didn't have to listen to Justin for the whole 4-hour ride at camp because it was in real life. And they just let Justin right off the front. We don't have to listen anymore.
And Andy said, yes, he will pull you all the way home. You just have to make him think that he's winning the race and he'll pull you all the way home.
Oh. Nice.
Johan asked if this will be a Denning-esque this workout. What is that, like just sprints and a ton of easy? If that's what you think is Denning-esque, then yeah, we got it.
Oh my.
There's a guy that's all VLA, VO2, man. All about crits, all about that punch, and
All
sits
about
in
the
the rest of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I make sure I'm not within any distance of him
Yeah.
within a couple kilometers. He'll beat my sprint. I can attack him from 50K out though, and he's like, whatever, screw this. Okay. Woo.
All right.
Heart rate's down to 130.
Mhm.
Minute and a half till another pain interval.
Mhm.
Start
This one,
preparing
in the
yourself
3-minute one, you can
mentally.
change gears.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, but it's that idea again of sort of that, peak minute, and then if it starts to decline, everything like that, it's fine. So you didn't seem too sad to go from 1217 watts to 1170. I can't even say my digits only go to 3. You broke the counter. You broke it, man.
I personally have 10 digits. I don't know about you.
No, I saved so much room on my Wahoo bike computer because I only need just room for 3 digits.
3, yeah.
Other stuff on the screen. You're missing out.
So you can run it. So you can run it in boomer mode then, because you only need 3 digits.
Totally.
There's got to be a triathlete joke in there that they only need 3 digits, right? Somewhere a triathlete joke.
Oh yeah.
Okay, 30 seconds.
Here we go.
There we go. 3-minute all out effort. This is gonna suck.
Let's see. So where would this put him on in Watopia? Is this like reverse KOM?
No. Oh, the number. 3 minutes
Just
reverse.
Yeah, the number.
Yeah.
What line would that be?
Yeah, reverse KOM is
4KOM
about
talking.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
4 kilo. You're under 2 minutes. So reverse would be longer. He's right. Let's see it.
Yeah.
Oh, you got your average there too. There's one thing you talked about, PMAC, real quick. Maybe we could hit it. Is the recovery power that it brings in.
Yeah, totally. I could totally talk about that. So, yeah, that recovery power we were talking about. So that's your max, sort of your peak lactate consumption place, right? So we can look at a curve and see where you're using lactate, and take, no matter where you fall in that spectrum, we can put it to your advantage. So we can have you when you're doing intervals, or like for our athletes, we did at Best Bike Camp. We just said when we did group rides and we're doing in races and saying, okay, this is where we want you to go to recover. Getting really competent at recovering at that level becomes a skill, right? So you can determine where I need to be. So for me, that number is like something, it'll be completely esoteric. Mine's like 247 watts or something. And so below that, if I drop below that number, I'm just not combusting as much lactate. If I'm over the top, I'm producing too much relative to what I'm consuming. So that's your peak recovery spot. So basically your body or your muscles at that point in time are just chewing through all that lactate, creating more space, and whatever the case may be, in the case of an interval workout, to do more efforts, which is ultimately what we want. So that I think it becomes huge for two. I would say it becomes really important for 2 reasons. One is if you are trying to, if you're doing sort of like over threshold type work, and you're trying to make sure you're getting in the high end or in races or dynamic situations, you're like, oh man, I got to get down to this number, right? Because when you do a 10 lap race in the real world, the power number, the difference between Justin's watts and someone else of his caliber are going to be very close. It's not going to be like Justin is racing me and I'm gone. So the difference isn't who's got more power, it's who can recover faster between the climbs, between those sections. So knowing that peak number and chewing through that lactate and getting recovery high is huge.
All right, let's go, Justin. Let's go. Hold on, PMAC. Hold on. 45 seconds. Go. 45. Go. Change gears. Get up there. Roll through. Get up there.
That's it, man.
Come on. Push up.
Good work.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Go.
Up. Come on, keep cadence up.
Good.
Come on, man. We're almost there. Roll it
Don't
through.
worry,
Roll it through.
Next one, you can use 2 legs. The next one, you can use 2 legs. You'll be fine.
Up. Come on. Push it. We got a fig bar for you. Come on. You got it. 299, 500.
Right.
500. Nice job. We'll give him a minute. So Eugene says, oh my gosh, Justin's 3-minute power is my 1-minute power.
Yes.
What was
That
the
is
average?
downside of
500.
Justin test.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gosh.
That's so painful.
Gosh.
It's painful for you, Justin, but those numbers also just crush the dreams of millions of cyclists across the globe. So, but if they too would just eat fig bars, they could be strong. So while he's recovering, just one last thing. So I was going to say about that peak recovery rate. What's really interesting, so we know if you're doing intervals, for example, like VO2 or whatever, if we can get you to recover in that space, great, or sort of tough FTP intervals. But you can also be sadistic and make sure that you don't sit in that peak recovery area. If you can go below it, so you're not actually getting rid of lactate, so that we're spending far more time inside that zone for creating changes. So it's another way to strategically, I think, for athletes as you move across the season and get more efficient at those intervals, to get more bang for the same buck. So you don't have to say, oh, I've got to do a 90-minute workout instead of a 75-minute workout. We can just change your recovery window at the effort you're going and make it much harder for you. It's also a lot more strategic.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Gosh. I love how their text is totally not looking at my power numbers at all. It's like, that was huge. You did amazing. Text has no idea what happened.
Yeah. Those numbers are huge. So big.
So I guess a conversation on the volcano race. Team Mac, you've done the volcano where we've raced up it about 7 minutes. That's a low VO2 effort. Riders were chatting about not pedaling at all, going downhill, versus how you're recommending here, hitting that number, so that by the time you get to the bottom of the volcano downhill, you're going to be fresher than the same rider. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely right. So great point. So I think the way I look at that recovery piece, so you'd say you do that 7-minute interval. Absolutely. There's 30 seconds or 35 seconds or somewhere where you just got to get your breath back, right? We all sort of have that moment where we're like, I've got to just get back, and we're not so worried about the numbers. But the maximum amount of that recovery time that you can spend at that number, yes, absolutely. By the time it comes time for the next interval, the next sprint, if people are going to attack that short climb up, or if they're just waiting to the sprint finish, you will definitely be fresher. Absolutely. Yeah. Which is a big change for how athletes think about recovery, right?
Yes.
Particularly in that dynamic race situation.
Yep.
Yeah. It's huge,
So I think that first minute was like 600.
It was.
And then it fell apart, but that's what he told me to do. Told me to go big and hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, Eugene.
Did I face it correctly, Eugene?
Yeah.
Or I go a little too hot in the beginning?
I think BMAX said 1 minute power, right? Right? Start with the 1 minute power. Yeah.
That's good. Again, totally depressing for the rest of us, but really good for you, Justin. We're so happy for you. You're like the smart kid at the front of the class, and you're like, I'm taking this science test. You keep getting it all right. We're all like, oh yeah, we're so happy for you.
Was 110% the correct score, teacher? I wasn't quite sure. Could you spell it out while everyone's listening? If 110% is good?
Also, while you're grading my test, here's a flower and a fig bar. Thank you. Hey, someone took a bite out of that fig bar.
Yeah.
But Eugene, this test, you actually want to trail off. You don't want to save anything. Trust me.
Right. Yes.
There's nothing saved here.
Yeah, you could
like I'm going to the 6 and 10 minute depleted for sure. Like you'll know what my FTP is because
there'll be no anaerobic.
I'll be exhausted.
Yeah.
No anaerobic left to use.
So Eugene, what that means is that next time you race Justin, Eugene, You just have to go 600 watts for over 3 minutes and he'll be tired. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Are you supposed to be sweating? Because I'm not. Oh,
That's
It'll
so
come.
funny. So I know for our triathletes, the majority who did the test, that 25 seconds was basically a near-death experience.
Oh yeah.
But when they got to the 10-minute test, they were like, "Oh, this is so great! I got this all day."
Taking their triathlete selfies.
Oh my god, totally. I don't know how they do it, man. I had to, as a triathlete, I had to turn off my Instagram because I'm like, I've never seen so many pictures of triathletes.
Yeah.
Yeah, too much.
And the number goes up as you get closer to Kona. It goes like this, up. It levels up.
Peak pictures, yeah.
Yeah.
Pictures increase, amount of clothing decreases.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bad.
Is that possible on Instagram for amount of clothing to decrease?
That's followers only.
Exactly. For subscribers, my friend.
Yeah.
So I was talking before about the virtual testing too. So I was going to say one of the things we can do is we can model out like what happens if Justin reduces his VLA max, by 0.2, or if he increases his VO2 max. What do these different versions of you look like? And it'll show you the change that you can get in your threshold power, for example. And we'd also see what things would look like from a fueling perspective as well. And that's really useful, I think, as a target for athletes to say, hey, look, you would normally see a change naturally across your season, starting from the winter, getting started to later in the season. So we can see what that looks like. But also for athletes to get a better sense. I think after a couple of years, athletes kind of have a sense that this is where I'm at. Like, this is my threshold is always, plus or minus 10 or 15 watts here. My VO2 is this is my sprint number. But you can be really focused on it. We can see what your potential is for doing work based off of the test data. I think it really gives people a new sense of like, oh, if I do these sessions, I can move the number to the right, etc., and get better results depending on what it is they're looking for. So, Justin, if you're trying to, like we said, maybe you want to get that threshold up to 400. What does that look like for you?
Right.
So Eugene asked, now that he knows that the average is 550, is 550 or 600 and then rolls out to 450, is there any, I don't know, any worth in him going back at some point and doing 550 steady and trying with less variation? But really, you're only doing this test, 4 or 5 months apart, maybe twice a year, right? You're not doing this every 4 weeks. The changes are so big.
Yes, that's a great point. And that's what, some people typically did lactate testing. Those numbers were so sensitive. It was basically like every 4 weeks, if you were serious about it, you'd have to get tested again, which is pretty unsustainable, unless you were at an Olympic training center or happen to be married to an exercise physiologist who'd love to poke you with you. So not very useful at all. Now, these changes are definitely more macro level work. So in my world, I tell people we want to test you sort of start of the season. And then again, we want to look at sort of that transition period as you're moving from your base phase towards race phase. Where are you at? How much work have you done? Where do you want to be? And then if we can capture you in that space at the sort of your peak performance, to be like, this is, we started here, this is our midpoint, this is the end, win, like total win. We can exactly see what your annual progress looks like on a typical basis. And also see whatever change we were able to do. So then when we start the next year, we do that initial test, we can see, oh, you were here, which only dropped off. In an ideal world, you're kind of moving up on a sort of like an upward trend over time, so we don't lose that much over the winter and what that looks like. So yeah.
Also, I was reading that there's a fairly large range of time allowable for each of the tests.
Yes.
That the software can take into account.
Yes. Totally. We can do that. So we've had people, when we did the test, like I mentioned, some people messed up their 3-minute test. We can go back and say, take another effort and drop that into your profile. There's a lot of flexibility in the system to be able to put that in there for sure.
Well, and like the 3-minute test, they're like, it can be anywhere from like 2.5 minutes to 4 minutes for the software to trigger.
Oh,
on.
yes. Yes. Exactly. And that's definitely changed over time. I think as they've refined the algorithm and they're just getting more and more data in their system, they've been able to sort of compress those intervals down a little more. Yes, which is really helpful.
So could you take snapshots as Justin starts to go outdoors, and he starts to take snapshots of other 3-minute powers? Could you drop those into the inside algorithm and see if that changes him as he goes? Is that what you're referring to?
You could do that. Yes. The key is though they'd have to be seated, right? So
right.
If you decided to take off and sprint, that skews the whole piece.
Speaking of which,
some
I'm
athletes
standing
are really
right now.
adept at that.
Do I have to sit the whole thing or just during the intervals?
Intervals.
For the rest of your life, Justin, you will be seated. Sorry. We'll get you an office chair.
T-Mac must have done too many. T-Mac must have done too many of these tests because every time I attack, he just stays seated. Didn't get the memo.
Well, ironically, being in my aero bars is very close to the fetal position. So when you attack, I can just curl up in a ball like an armadillo. Please don't hurt me.
T-Mac has a third rest in between his bars for his forehead.
It's a very large rest.
Oh man. Oh man.
Totally. I've got it right up there. Although I was looking at your setup, Justin. So do you literally have do you have your keyboard right at the front of your bars?
What's the remote? Show him, Justin. Yeah, show him.
I put my they're not on right now. When I have my aero bars on the bike, I can put my keyboard on the aero bars.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Otherwise, when I'm attacking, I just hold it in one hand and type with the other while I'm dropping T-Mac.
So,
oh, man.
So T-Mac, maybe you could speak to let's see, tempo rides versus more like I guess it'd be like zone 2 quote unquote fat burning rides versus the calculated fat max ride. That'd be a good point to talk about.
Yeah. Right. So it depends which energy system you're trying to target in your session. Sort of from a phase point across the year, and also where you come in. So those fat max rides, especially for athletes who are super high on the VLA side, we're just trying to get them to try to use different energy system. So the fat max rides I would put those in the category of like easy rides, outside, having fun. If you do hard efforts, you're instantly moving the system over to producing lactate, which is inhibiting the use of fat. So your body's always using some ratio of fat and carbs, but we want to make sure it's on that fat side. So a lot of long, slow, easy rides, which is great. And that's easy, and that's relevant for a time of year. So I look at that early in the season, building a lot of base volume, and again, having fun. Like, Justin, if he does want to tell 10,000 dad jokes in a ride, could ride at fat max pace with the team and tell all the jokes, right? Unstoppable.
Why are you guys talking about inviting Fat Max to all of our rides? That seems like, fat lives matter.
Fat lives matter.
Right, and then there's the tempo work. We were talking about the tempo work as well, and that tempo work is what reduces that DLA max number, right? So spending time in zone 3, particularly zone 3 at the lower cadence work as well, so we can stimulate some fast twitch muscle fibers, which is some of the work that you were doing earlier when we started the live stream. That really brings those numbers down. And so as you're
90 seconds to the next interval.
Okay.
90 seconds to the 6th?
90 seconds to the 6th.
Wow. Man, it's just flying at you, man. I thought this would take you longer. You do everything.
Well,
everything.
I make time bend. That's how big my watts are.
That's how fast his internet is. Did you hear Justin has fast internet?
I heard he only had to annoy the company for 3 straight years to get internet. Look, I've actually had my children dig a trench to your substation. You just gotta put the fiber in the trench. We've done everything.
Put the fiber in the conduit, people. Come on, right here.
Come on.
We're ready for you.
We're so ready.
40 seconds.
All right, so same as the last interval. In this case, 2-3 minute effort. Think about it like that. So, and I was looking at those last numbers. I'd be in the sort of high 4s, low 5, maybe 5 for the first minute, and then it'll drop down a little bit and kind of settle in a number you can sustain for the remaining 3 minutes. all the
I was
while
thinking
knowing
300.
it's so much higher than my watts.
Okay.
Now, those of you on the
10
live stream,
seconds.
if you want to say anything about Justin, we've got
This
6
is the
minutes
time.
to do it.
Yep.
6 minutes. Tell us the Justin story. This could be a good long story.
10 seconds. Here we go.
All
Okay,
right.
here we go. Here we go.
Moves off. Awesome.
So, you mentioned cadence. How does that play a
Yeah.
factor for when we're doing these lower intensity efforts, as you're saying, kind of throughout the year? You're mentioning that converts muscle over. That seems to be really important, right?
Yeah, no, so the lower cadence stuff is really interesting, right? So, basically putting out all trainings work, intervals are work, and it's a function of motor units, right? So we've got slow twitch motor units, fast twitch motor units. And the more you use them, the more they become like slow twitch units, more endurance. And so for athletes who are sprinting and then taking it super easy, whoops, hold on, sorry about that. I'm getting all my notifications while I'm talking to you. So they use those fast twitch muscles, but then they don't spend any time sort of converting them to slow twitch. So what's great about these tempo type workouts and the lower cadence is that we can sustain the tempo work that we need to start to reduce the VLA, but we can throw in the higher effort, but sort of fast twitch oriented work at those intervals, the lower cadence, to start stimulating those fast twitch fibers and convert them to slow twitch as well. So an example would be the range of low cadence is like, starting at say 70 and going down to 50. So you can maybe be able to do, 20 minutes total in a session at 70 RPMs. As you get more and more confident at those, you can start to lower that number down. So you can either add more time at 70 RPMs or start taking that 20-minute block and going to 65, 60, never really below 50. And you want to ease into that work. We don't want to just say, if 50 is the best, boom, just drop into that number totally, right? Like, why do one when you can do so many? What was interesting to me about that number is that for a long time, for a couple of years, I want to say like 5-6 years ago, I was doing more group riding, and when I'm riding with other people who are not my speed, and I want to hang out with them, unlike Justin, I would use lower cadence work. So I would just shift it to a harder gear and just pedal at like 40 RPMs. There were times when I would ride an hour standing. Of course, I have a ridiculously low VLA max, and I'm like, they just, because in 2013 I decided to ride at 50 RPMs for an entire year. But it does make a big difference for athletes, and I think people don't think about low cadence strategically. A cyclist, absolutely, you want to be confident riding that higher cadence, lower torque, super more efficient, etc. I get it, but that low torque work actually does a great job of recruiting different muscle fibers, so you can really transform how you ride, for sure. So it wouldn't change how you you would still sprint the way you sprint, right? But it's the recruitment action that makes a big difference.
We're halfway through. 3 minutes to go, Justin. 416 average.
Perfect. That's awesome. We want to keep that above 416.
No dropping. 230 go.
It out.
Yeah. Let's go. Team Lynn says, right on. Let's go. Look at that average power.
Nice.
Get up.
Nice. So those of you at home watching, this is that low VO2 power range test for him. So we get a real good sense. We can compare the high number and the low number. And we've also got that sprint number. Like that, filling out his profile, so we get a great deal of information to plot a curve to see where he's at. Get a sense of his oxygen uptake. We get a sense of his glycogen utilization, all the stuff that becomes a huge part of making him a better athlete. Or we can, if you donate enough to me online right now, I can give him terrible information that will just turn things around all the time.
The Facebook stars are pouring in, PMAC. I will forward you all these Facebook stars. They're pouring in right now. Yeah.
Coach, what does juggling chainsaws have to do with my training? I don't understand. Seems highly dangerous. Low reward. No, it's a key session. Very key.
90 seconds, Justin. Scott Liu from Mars says hello. And
Nice.
Idol Ray from the Philippines just logged in, saying these are
Nice.
wild numbers. Wild numbers.
Oh my God, such crazy, crazy numbers. I think this is something else to talk about outside of just the testing. Just getting a chance to benchmark your numbers, I think, has become really important. As athletes, we tend to sort of remember our best performance for like the last 6 months, or the older you get, the last 6 years. Like, oh, I always ride 3 minutes at this number. But getting a test number out of that is really helpful for people to sort of reorient themselves. Even doing this test, I was convinced that my threshold was 20 watts higher than it actually was as a result of the test. And now that I'm using my test number, oh my God, life is so much better. I totally know where I need to be. I know the work I'm doing. Whereas before, I've been kind of hacking it, and like all my intervals were like just on this downward trend. It was terrible.
Here we go. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Come on, Justin. Push it up. Push it up. Man. Nothing below 4. Gotta push. Gotta push. Visualize. Visualize.
Relax those hands. Keep pushing.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. 20. 20 to go.
That's it. Oh my God. That's it.
403.
403.
403?
403.
Nice. Was it, out of curiosity, Justin, was it showing you the average on the screen there?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, huh? That's a great addition. I didn't have that in workouts before. You could get that, capture that number.
Is that back in 1980?
No, it's with workouts. Like, I would have to have a bike computer like back in the day. Now you can have that number there. That's pretty awesome.
Was that before trainers were invented?
Justin holding in all the comebacks for 6 minutes.
He's totally just letting it all out. Okay, and 5 minutes when you said this, Patrick. Oh yeah.
Why?
What is
Why is peanut
between those two intervals?
I don't know. High. I wasn't watching.
Right. I hear you.
Perceived exertion. What was the perceived exertion there, Justin?
Oh yeah, let's try that.
11 out of a scale of 1 to 10.
What'd you keep the cadence at?
Honestly, I wasn't paying attention. I'm sure it was close to 100.
Yeah,
90 to 100.
Definitely 90 plus.
Okay.
Scott Liu says, "Good God, 6 minutes, 403 watts. We're gonna need bigger aliens on Mars."
I know. The aliens on Mars actually just sent us a note. They said, "Don't send him.
Don't send
Justin.
Justin.
We don't want him." They wanted me to read this. They said, "Justin, you should try Uranus. Don't come to Mars."
Oh, no.
So,
T-Mac's the kind of guy that when he teaches astronomy to his kids, he's like, "Hey, this telescope, kids, is so good. You can find the moon, you can find Jupiter. Hey, you can even look up Uranus."
I think T-Mac had something for you. Yeah, here it goes.
Yeah, you need any more chamois cream, Justin?
Wands? Yeah, it's here. So drop it down here. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, can I turn my video off real quick? Hold on. Hold on here. Let me mute my video. Okay.
Get some salt. You need some more salt, Justin. What do we have for you?
Okay, then we're back. We're back. Thanks. I had to just turn off the camera for a second there.
Woo! Hey, Justin, here you go. Here you go. I'll give you you need any sugar?
Pass it on down. Here we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Here you go.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. There you go.
Oh.
All right. I'm ready
Oh,
for your
he's
10
got his
minute.
helmet.
I'm ready for your 10-minute test now. I'm getting excited. I want to start riding right now.
I think you could beat me on this 10-minute test.
Well, now I could because you're
If
exhausted.
there's any of these tests you could beat me at, it might be this one.
After all these
When
tests.
you're fresh.
Well, so we get some numbers for you, Justin. Out of curiosity, if you're willing to share, like,
I will.
when you're racing, I know, are you willing to share? Justin's like, that box is already checked for everything, all the things.
I mean, I just don't live stream my sleep because my wife's not okay with it.
Like in a race situation, what's the dynamic that you're like, oh, Justin is not happy in this situation? Like, what is it for you? Like, clearly, like if someone's trying to establish a gap, you can
Uphill finish. Uphill finish.
Uphill finish. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the like?
Or technical turns before a finish.
Okay.
Technical.
I mean,
we know about that. You mean technical turns that have been captured on video that you've watched and that you know are coming? Like that kind of technical turn?
No, not that one. Watch it, PMAC. I know where you sleep.
I know. I can see your teammates on the team bus, you know? He's at the front of the class. We watched the video together. I don't know. He showed me with, diagram, terrible crash.
We said hairpin turn, and he was poking himself with hairpins. I don't know what it was.
I can't ride my bike either. It's okay. At least your crashes are I think, from cycling, not mine, which are just dumb.
Life insurance asks me if I have any moving violations. I'm like, well, at least they don't write me tickets every time I crash my bike. Otherwise, my auto insurance would be through the roof.
All right, so 10-minute test is left. Easy peasy.
I'm thinking this is going to be like 350 maybe.
What'd you just do the 6 minute at? 403?
403.
403. Yeah.
What's your FTP now? Are you in like the 360 range?
Supposedly 365.
Not that I'm a stalker. Look at that.
That's my guess.
Okay.
That's my best guess right now, but it's been a while since, and it might have been a high guess when I did it.
Okay.
Yeah. Last one was a step test, if I remember. So.
Okay.
I usually test really well on a step test.
Yeah. Well, you take them 2 at a time, right? Those legs.
Yes.
Kind of cheating.
I beat 2 PMAX at a time on step tests.
Oh man. Yeah, you should be, probably I'd say like 370, be in their range.
Yeah, you also thought I was going to hold near 500 for the 6 minutes.
That's
Did not
close.
happen. You were like high 4s. Yeah. I was like, maybe at the sprint at the beginning.
I don't know, man.
Oh wait, that high
can do
4s
it,
is
you
your
can do
sprint number? Is that what you were saying when we were coming into the 6 minutes? You're like, you'll probably average my sprint for 6 minutes?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Exactly. Yeah, we totally get that. We get that complete sense for you. I'm trying to think of some other, sort of beneficial stuff you could do from your work. So, I'll be curious. Nice.
All I gotta say is, I've got only 57 ride-ons, but 82 TSS people. This needs to be fixed. The ride-on to TSS ratio is wrong. And all you watching me suffer, fix that now. More ride-ons to match the suffering. At least 2 ride-ons per TSS. Okay?
Get to work. Call your friends. Look, he's doing it right now. He's calling his friends. Everybody, ride-ons.
So Eugene, at one point when I was using a left-only power meter, I once did a step test and tested it like 402, 403. But that was the left only, and we know I'm left heavy. Well, I'm just generally heavy, but left tends to put out more power. So my numbers have been a bit lower since I've been doing dual-sided power meters, and I think I'm going on 12 months since the crash. I could almost make it to a Crashaholics Anonymous meeting now.
Nice.
I think that 403 number was probably close to back when I was doing Sweat Fest. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's close.
A couple surgeries later.
Yeah.
Surgeries and bikes, kids. Listening to PMAC too much has all dropped my power.
I don't think that's it. You can totally see a swing like that in a good season, like a solid season build up for someone like you to put 10%.
What I find, well, I mean, probably, thing I find is like, I just got to build up the volume. And with volume usually comes a bit of threshold, although I don't really like to test my threshold very often. Surprise, surprise. I'm like, okay, if I'm upping my weekly volume, I'm getting prepped for these really long races.
Right.
Because I just need a lot of endurance in the tank. There you go, Terry. Somebody's helping us out here.
Look at that.
So this might be a good chance, to talk about the balance. So obviously we have an idea of a shot where obviously his anaerobic powers are super high. His VO2 max is going to be high. So the part where he's going to be able to have the most gain on his FTP number is exactly kind of what he's leading to, right? In his own intuition with, I need to do longer volume at some lower power in order to push it, because I pushed all the other limits up, right? Is that how we see this? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. So it's volume and the type of work you're doing, like making that lower volume count more, working in that, lower cadence work, and sitting in a specific zone too as well. Not just, not the fat max zone. We don't want to be so low that you're just riding in circles and not really doing much work. I mean, you say that you're a heavy guy, Justin, but overall, I would say, fairly lean. So
sure,
putting you in that middle
sure.
zone, makes a big difference in terms of energy.
Just all the other cyclists give me a weight complex because they all weigh 110 pounds.
Yeah,
oh my God.
You're a big guy though. You're a tall guy.
I'm 6'2", yeah.
Hey, it's all right. That's the way, man.
I blame the fat boys. They were on sale at Sam's Club.
Okay. So
bad.
A lot of our streamers in the last 8 weeks for me and on the live stream PMAC have been seeing a lot of shuttling workouts, lactate shuttling, and we see a lot of that in the inside workouts. Can you tell us a little bit about what that helps us with, and how does that help with the calculations and kind of put together what we're looking at, Justin, here?
Oh, sure. So lactate shuttling in terms of workout protocol, I think it's really, it's super interesting. So we talk about, remember people used to think lactate was super bad, right?
Right.
Now we understand lactate is something our body consumes for energy, right? It's burning, it's putting it out there. So we're like, hey, this is helping me continue to put out this effort.
Is consuming lactate more efficient than consuming PMAX for energy? I was asking for a friend.
Nom, totally.
And how does that correspond to PMAX?
You'd have to slow down to consume me. You're going so fast at those watts, my friend.
Exactly. Sorry.
I'm just here to interrupt. They're all getting all deep and interesting in the science, and I'm just here to troll them when I'm not suffering.
Totally.
It's my only job here.
No, so the lactate shuttle I think is really important because it's training you to, you get a chance to do some of the higher end work, build up some lactate, and then we drop down to that recovery zone. So it almost ends up being like, if your threshold was, you'd be like 100% for your threshold interval. We do 105 over that, build up some lactate time, and we drop down to that recovery. So it's not super hard, as hard as sort of your high VLA max, like crit racers are used to, but it's definitely harder than you'd want to be on the recovery side, right? So triathletes are the inverse. The high numbers, I don't like this at all, but the recovery space, this is my happy place. And so you just get more efficient at consuming that lactate. Which again puts you in a place where you're utilizing that properly and using it as an energy source, training your body a little differently, which is part of that process of becoming more efficient for those of you who are used to just doing all that work and then having 45 minutes in the group at an easy pace to take care of everything. We're trying to make you more dynamic in that situation. One of the things I'd look at, we used to do a camp for the Tour of California. So we'd do a ride, one of these long rides, like a traverse stage, like 140 miles. and there's like 10 of us in the group. My TSS was like 370, and I wasn't going hard. It was just a long day. And then you'd see the person who won the stage, their stats would go up, and they did the ride. Of course, they did it in like 5 hours instead of our 7 hours. But the guy's TSS was like 165. He basically sat behind 95 riders and barely had to pedal, right? Except for the last 25 minutes when they attacked. It's such a different space to be in. So I think those are really
Speaking
powerful
of the shuttling workout, do you ever prescribe the truffle shuffle? Is that one of the workouts?
Oh, sugar jokes. More sugar. Uh-oh.
The brain function's not working, T-Mac. He's got to add sugar, right?
I understand. So what type of lactate shuttle workouts are you doing right now? Like, what does it look like?
So we've got two kinds. One that do increase in reps over time for people who've never done shuttle, and then one that increase in sets. So we try to increase the time in zone, right? 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, increase the time in zone, depending on the athlete. So I'm up to like 40-minute blocks in zone on shuttle.
Wow.
So 2 minutes on and then 3 minutes off with my LOP around a 190. So I just drop in and out of LOP and then the 103%, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I usually do my shuffle workouts like this. I start with the scratch energy chews, move on to the Turkish delight, then we go to the cliff shot blocks, and back around to the chocolate covered cherries.
Wow.
That's usually my truffle shuffle workout.
See, T-Mac, see what you're gonna be able to do? You're gonna be able to hurt him where he loves it. Be like, no, only one truffle. Per hour? No, one truffle the whole time.
The whole time.
10 grams per hour, bro. That's it. That's all you get.
Oh man. Unbelievable. Like your garage with all that food is a lot like that warehouse in Beirut, I think. All that high octane stuff. That can be dangerous.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible. Leave PMAC to leave like make a joke out of natural disasters. I don't know how natural that was, but it was a disaster.
It was a disaster. It's horrifying, but I'm just saying. So that's the lactate shuttling is a good workout. Another workout that I think is really interesting because it sort of came out of this understanding of lactate and how we work, because we get that recovery rate, right? So we know in the lactate shuttling, we get a chart that shows us, hey, 1 minute, I'd say for 103% in your case, and 1 minute at recovery, that's a 1-to-1. So we create the lactate, we combust the lactate, we can continue doing that. If you're doing efforts at 106%, 109%, the lactate increases exponentially, right? So it's not a 1-to-1. And you can see that how costly that is for those athletes. And so if you were doing 106%, you have to recover maybe twice as much. And we can plot that out for you if we need to.
Exactly.
But it's really interesting to kind of see how as you're going through the process of doing that work and recovery, again, inverting it and saying, hey, if for time crunched athletes, if you only have an hour and you want to do 2x10 or 2x12 or whatever your threshold work is, but you can't, at a certain point in time you run out of minutes in an hour. You can't do like 2x30 because it's an hour. You could do what I was calling sort of a primed FTP set, where you could do the first 5 or 6 minutes at, say, 105%. Just do a 105% interval for 5 or 6 minutes. Don't recover very much, and then go into your FTP. We're going to put some lactate in the system, induce a little bit of stress, not too much, and then we'll make the work at those intervals count a great deal more, and we're still within the hour. And so we don't have to then say, I think that's the biggest thing. We talk about progressive overload, like you were describing. Eventually, athletes are like, I'm running out of time in my day. I can stop sleeping, like Justin. I can.
Hey, am I supposed to be recording this workout for post-analysis?
I'm faking an injury so I can work from home. Yeah, like Justin. All those things.
All right, we are 2 minutes away. 2 minutes away.
2 minutes away from the 10 minutes. We're gonna go base layer only. Get a little more cooling action.
Okay. Awesome.
So.
Oh, speaking of which, are you eating and drinking, Justin? I'm not watching.
Eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah, he is.
All right, good. That could be bad. That could be super bad.
In 90 seconds.
My wife
Okay.
woke
Your
up and
wife?
is behind the green screen doing a workout. She's about to be like, "Whoa, we lost PMax.
He's
Get the
coming
video
back.
going here.
He's coming back.
Come on, get your video going, PMax. We're getting half of Jason. 1 minute.
1 minute to go.
Let's see.
So Eugene says, we're just gonna call Justin Justin Chunk from now on.
Okay. I got 35 seconds. PMax video. There it goes.
Here goes, here goes. 40 seconds. You're good, you're good.
Okay. We're in there. 22 seconds. My wife's gonna be like, what is this moaning, just yelling about to be about? She has no
man,
idea.
I can't hear you guys anymore. This is no good.
Okay,
Oh, no.
we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, 10 seconds.
Jason, can you hear me?
Yes.
No, you got me. All right. My sound output's going to.
Here we go, he's starting. All right, Justin. Nice and steady.
Here, let me go away. I'll try and come back again. Let me see if that works.
Okay, copy that. I'm gonna take my video out, Justin, so that it won't mess up your stream. Just roll it. You're good. All right. It's all right, Justin. Just focus. I took my guy out. It'll be empty. There you go, there you go. We'll just talk over it. Very good. He's gonna try to log back in. All right. Watch that number. Keep that cadence going. Hey man, we're getting some good conversation. That's awesome. This is gonna be a really good video. All right, those are tuning in. We're looking at an average watts of 360 right now. We've got 9 minutes to go. Type in your chimes on what do you think his average is going to be at 10 minutes. Let's see it. 360 is what he's got right now. 9 minutes to go.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we hear
Yeah.
you. We hear you.
All right, okay. I go earbuds here. All right. I'm back. All right, sorry about that.
No worries. So let's see. So the zones are different. That's one thing to point out. Your inside zones are different than Coggin, which are different than all the zones, right? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So helpful. Thanks,
Isn't
everybody.
it?
Yep, it's like you get a new bike and you're like, oh great, the brakes, I need this special key for the front brake.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, totally. Yeah, so I've told, what I did for my athletes, when we generated the report, we kind of gave a cover sheet that had some of those key numbers, not just the FTP stuff they cared about.
TPS
but
report.
Yeah.
Total TPS, right, yes. I don't even know where my cup of coffee went to. So yeah, there it is, look at that. Woo! And so, yes, they say, yes, red stapler.
Yes.
And so we put all those numbers up there. So what's your peak recovery space? You know, what's your fat max number, where you want you to be, et cetera. So people could just I told them, I was like, literally print out that sheet like he has and put it next to the screen. So you can just dial it right in. Don't even think about it. It's just too much to remember.
Right here. Yeah, it's
Look
too
at
much.
that. Your tri coach is so proud of you. So proud. Yeah, so it is, the numbers are definitely different. I think for some athletes, I understand they have got a high VO2 and a low VO2 number is kind of hard to work with. I mean, especially if you've got if you're using stock workouts, you know, the VO2 number may be set at say 120. And for you, if you're like Justin, super high on the VO2 side, that may be 130 for you. Whereas for me, that may be 115. So you're gonna have to be able to use the controls in game to, you know, make those adjustments to get the workouts to fit your numbers. Accordingly, for sure. Yeah, I think it's really, really hard. So how have you balanced some of these changes, like working in Jason, I'd be curious, like,
Yeah.
some of the low cadence work. But still, one of the questions I got from my athletes is like, but hey, when do I still get to have fun on Zwift? Like, now I'm doing these workouts, I lost my fun. How do you strike that balance?
Yeah. So on our balance with Endurance Lab, what I'll do is I'll leave one of the workouts a week to allow them to race,
Okay.
right?
Right.
A lot of their work during the week is tempo, like you described, low cadence tempo, because a lot of us are the same. 45 minutes to 90 minutes, that's our zone. We love to race at that zone, that power. So we really are doing these fat max and tempo efforts at low cadence with one time of the week that you're all out racing, and then one day of the week we'll shuffle, depending on your level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how we're shuffling. But here's the difference. So I'm an inside athlete, but so I kind of talk about inside work and athletes kind of right here, but a lot of Zwifters and endurance lab riders that we have, and you have them too, that are just kind of understanding all of this. So this is really high level for them. So getting them structure is important, and getting them to be the right workouts. So we start to dial that in, and that's where Fat Max, and the biggest thing we do as coaches is we have people do, less intensity to be able to get that work in, right? We're telling them to do less a lot of times.
Yeah.
So the balance is that. Yeah, less.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hard, right?
It is.
You're like, this is another race starting right now. And wait, there's another race now. Hey, let's do another one. Look, the race.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's challenging. It's less races, but then you could focus races. So you do your hard work, and then you make them go into a race. Like you have them do like 30 15s before a race. And now they come in fatigued. And now they have a whole different type. They're not fresh, right? So that's huge.
That's a good point. Actually, I think a lot of athletes do well racing fatigue. Their tactics change dramatically. Whereas if they're strong enough in a say they're a B racer and they're strong enough, they could be on the front doing some work, but they show up tired. Then they're in the group. They're being a little more savvy with their tactics. Yeah, completely different race. And some people actually do better in that. But if they were strong, they never would have done it. Never would have done it. That's a great point.
So Doom goes from the live stream. So we have high-level coaches and low-level athletes like Justin. So that's why Justin tells dad jokes? Is that how it works?
Yeah, while he wants TSS and the ride-ons to be high, his TSS and dad joke ratio is actually horrible. Yes, unfortunately.
All right, we're at 370 with 4 minutes to go. 370 average, 3.5 minutes to go.
Okay, no pressure. I was 373, Justin. No. So.
Well, you're only 400 on the sprint.
Totally. The difference is like this. It's like this figure.
Oh man.
I thought of you, Justin. I did some race. Did I do a race? I can't remember what it was. I know I did the Thursday race. I didn't do the wagon this week again for the 97th time. I've got Mr. Lynn is like, could you please come do the wagon because Justin is picking on me. And I did the Thursday race in Greater London Flats, the ODZ race. And I'm pushing and pushing and pushing, trying to make it a good session. And someone's like, hey, Coach Patrick, we're not going to fall for these attacks. And I was like, what? My 10-second incredible power attacks that get me a 1 second gap. You guys don't want to jump on that? Nobody wants to be a part of that? That's a great ride as well. I'd never done that one before. I thought the 5-lap one would be too much for me, but it was actually good. So.
I feel like as you do get to like your level too, and I mean, a lot of us, longer races are going to be where you get that separation, after 75 minutes, you're going to get those riders that can hold on to that. Because under that, you can kind of fake it. You know that. You can fake it 60 to 75 minutes, right?
Yeah. Our Saturday, we do something called the hang-on ride on Saturday mornings, 6:05 a.m. East Coast time. And it's a progressive ride. So we do big foothills. So each climb is, we do 3 watts for the first climb, 3.5 watt cap, then 4 watt cap for the volcano. And then we come down the volcano, and when we hit the downtown banner, 20 Ks of a mini race. And that always goes back through Titans Grove reverse, and it finishes 2/3 of the way up the reverse KOM.
Nice.
So people, depending who shows up, how it plays out. But I actually have a chance in that race because we don't hit that race until we're like an hour and 20 minutes in. So all of a sudden, all those dudes, I'm actually pretty close to them. All I have to do is get them tired for 80 minutes first. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's a good point. But for me, I mean, it's been eye-opening for me as well. I think a lot of it depends on where athletes want to go. And so for me, I've enjoyed my time. I'm a little more flexible this year because I'm not doing Ironman racing. So I'm okay being in the middle of the pack and trying to say one of my weaknesses is that higher end strength. So
He's got 1 minute.
For Justin, exactly. So I am doing those VO2 workouts.
Nice.
That is going to be a substantial change for me versus someone like Justin, who is already excelling in that category. Here
we go. 60 seconds. 380 right now. 60 seconds.
Oh
Final
man,
minute.
I never should have told you 373. He's gonna be like.
He's gonna do 374.
I bet he could exactly. I bet he could totally do like 381, but he's like, no, it'll hurt more if I'm at 374. If I just drop that on Patrick.
Here we go.
Insult, injury.
30 seconds. Here we go.
Nice work, man. How's his cadence right now?
80, 89, 90. Yeah, this is him.
Okay,
This
nice.
is him on a long burn. This is him, right around 90.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Check out those legs, Doom says. Look at those quads, Quadzilla.
Oh my God, those quads. I didn't know that they had a filter to make your quads look like that. I love it. Snapchat, I thought.
382.
382 he called out.
Quad chat? 382. Oh, man. Woo. And that's great work. That's awesome
Wow.
stuff.
So
That's awesome.
while he recovers here, I've got a little bit of time. So here's the thing. Now that we have all these custom zones, what we're finding is that even though, let's say you've got stuff going into your training peaks or whatever, or Zwift to say that you have an FTP increase, because the other markers are based on metabolic efficiency, they may not necessarily change. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Like, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So all the zones don't move together. They move independently almost.
They all, yes, exactly. Right. So, I always tell people we kind of have to focus in on what is it you're trying to improve. Like most people traditionally are saying, I need to get my FTP higher. But to your point, which is really interesting about the work and the type of athlete you are, the way to change that may not be actually doing more time at FTP. It could be doing that lower intensity, low cadence tempo work actually is going to give you the growth that you need. So I think that's for the parts.
Messages in the chat. We've got time for a towel whip.
A towel whip. 100. Here we
Towel
go.
whip. 100 messages in the chat. Hold on.
100 messages in chat. Where are you at?
That's worth a towel whip once I get my. Oh my gosh. We interrupt this regularly scheduled blah blah blah. And the coaches. For the towel whip.
Towel whip.
Oh, there we
Just in
go.
time.
Okay. Apparently, if I can still do a towel whip, I didn't take the test hard enough. I should be on the ground cursing PMAC.
Oh my
But I
God.
still beat him.
That's some
And
great
yes,
work right there.
I did dig deeper when you said 373.
Of course you did.
You know exactly what to do. He probably did like 350, but he was like, Wags at 373.
No.
Wags at 372. I'm going to say 373 just to irk him.
Out of curiosity, what were you at when I said that?
360.
373.
Yeah, he's close. He's close.
I started at 360,
Okay.
and I kept upping and upping. I probably should have gone the other way. But I honestly thought I was going to be in like the 350 range.
Yeah. No. That's good. That's kind of what I would expect ideally 20 watts ish over your FTP. I think at that number. So at this point in the test, so you're right on point. So that's good. Oh, that's so funny.
So we were talking about zones moving independently.
Zones moving independently, right? So exactly. So people will do a ride or a race and stuff. They're like, oh, it says boom, I got a new FTP. You're right. Not all the numbers move correspondingly because you just move at one space.
Wait, Swift is like the biggest platform in the world. They know everything. If they say my FTP is 500 watts, it's 500 watts.
Right. It is for sure all the time.
I think.
And they help you know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, sometimes they put that cone over your avatar, Justin, so you know that you've really got a good FTP.
This is my celebratory hat.
Sorry. More dumb jokes, Jason. Go ahead.
No. I was saying that the one thing Zwift does know is 20 minutes times 0.95. That's what they know.
Oh my God, all the time. Totally. And I think what's interesting about this test for me, I tell my athletes, for you guys, it's times 0.9. I know 0.95 is what they say, but in terms of sustainable FTP work, it's more 0.9. And so, what's great about
Zwift is the internet gold standard for indoor brags.
Totally, absolutely. So I think that the numbers you get out of this test, I think, are just so much more accurate when we get the profile piece. I found it to be, my workouts are actually more repeatable, I think, and that's something people don't necessarily appreciate. They'll be like, oh, I downloaded this training plan on Zwift. I'm just going to follow this plan. I think my FTP is, just says my FTP is, number X. A number that I'm comfortable telling my friends it's that high. That's good, right? Don't want to be embarrassed. And they'll do those workouts, and then people are going to see that declining performance over time because they've got too high of a number, and they're not ready for that type of work. So when you do this kind of a test, all of a sudden the week is hard, but you can balance it out, and you can do the work incrementally like you're doing the endurance side, and get stronger from week to week for that block of time, 8 weeks, whatever it is, the block that you've got. That's a huge turnaround for most athletes.
Don't train hard, Patrick. The weak are weak. The weak aren't. Okay, sorry.
He's running out of breath.
WEAK. Oxygen's gone.
Wow.
PMAC is weak. There we go. That's all I needed to say. Just like, no. Weak isn't hard. PMAC is weak.
There you go.
Indeed. Okay.
No, that's. Oh, man.
This is like drug Justin. So lactate affects Justin differently than most athletes. Interesting. Okay.
You're like, PMAC.
25 seconds left in the workout. I am killing this 165 watt section. Boom. Hey, PMAC. I want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Giving us the chance to do this test. Run my numbers. I'll be talking about them on the stream as I get the results back. And we see just how much higher they are than PMAX. We'll make sure to point that out on every live stream from here on out.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So here we got the workout up on the screen. We'll take a look at this. Got a couple sprints. I hit my highest peak wattage on the second warm-up sprint. 1260.
Ooh.
But my heart rate at the end of 10 minutes peaked at 183.
That's good.
So you can see I hit the first 3-minute section really hard here, then died. Kind of the same on the 6-minute effort. First minute was hard, then I was pretty steady for about 4 minutes, and then like dying the last minute. And then the 10-minute, I was like, screw that, I'm not starting hard. We're at 350, and I was like, wait, PMAC did 373, kick it into overdrive.
Can't let him say that in the next wagon ride.
Exactly.
Sure. All right. So all you got to do, you got to download the fit file, and you can, email it to me. I'll give you my email address. And we can run the analysis and get all that stuff with you.
You don't want it on our normal Snapchat feed? Can't send photos to Snapchat?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, I'm dropping Snapchat for quad chat like you. I'm going full quad. There's no way. Forget these snaps.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you've enjoyed the content, give Endurance Nation a follow. PMAC has got a great following going on there. Lots of good training. Jason with Endurance Lab above. Thank you, coaches, for all the support today. It's an amazing workout. Hit the like button, subscribe if you guys enjoyed the content. We'll have more. We'll be back. And this is me about to fall over on the floor and die and say all the curse words at PMAC that I couldn't say on the live stream. All right. Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're clear.
Okay. Well, the good news is you can land in all those Fig wrappers.
Hold it. Don't take it down. Let me raid. Give me a second. Let me raid.
Okay,
yeah, don't move.
Yeah.
You
We
can
got we got like 15 Facebook viewers right now, 12 Twitch, 1 YouTube. So, doing good.
All the stats.
All the stats. Some good chat. Actually, I'm just pop back on real quick and tell them, hey, Twitch people, we're going to do a raid. Stick around. I know you didn't go anywhere. I can see the numbers. Y'all are still waiting for me to die again. Jason's got the raid going on.
We're good.
There'll be no more suffering on my part. And here we go. Jason's about ready to send the raid. So thanks everyone for joining in. We will catch you on the next one. Who are we rating, J-Flow?
Go for the Goldie. Another triathlete
Go
online.
for the Goldie.
Motivated
Awesome.
Monday.
All right, see you guys.
Hey,
Nice.
Good guy.
yeah, he is.
Ex semi-pro football player.
Yep, turned triathlete.
Nice.
Yep. All right. Hey, P-Mac. Appreciate your time.
Of course. This is good stuff. Thanks, both of you. Jason, thanks for being here as well.
Yeah, it helped
Awesome.
help fill space, answer questions. I love it. It was great. It was a great stream. Hopefully you could use it too for your athletes. Look
Yeah,
at.
totally.
What we could do is highlight
Yeah. Well,
some of the sections.
Okay.
That way we could send
Make
over
clips?
things. Yep.
we'll make sure you make a highlight reel of all the P-Mac slams.
It may be hard to filter those out from just the regular content.
In fact, you know, I'm done with the editing. The whole thing is just a P-Mac slam highlight reel.
Totally. It's like I can retire. I'm being roasted. This is
I
awesome.
mean, I didn't even have to say anything. Just my numbers did the talking while I was suffering.
Stop.
Oh man.
I'll give you the early numbers for sure. Those are ridiculous.
Oh, man.
I can't even imagine.
Uh,
I still have yet to crack 1,000 on like 15-second power. I'm like, come on. So
oh, go for the gold. He says stream starting, but he's not quite there.
I know, he's
losing viewers. Just
He's
raid him
lagging.
now. There you go.
There you
Just do the raid.
We're good.
Yeah, send
We're
the
good.
people.
We're good. We're good.
Okay.
We're green. Go ahead.
Okay.
awesome.
Did
All
you
right,
send
kids.
the raid? Or it must,
Yeah,
you must send
we're
the
good.
raid before I
I
before
did.
hopped
I
on
did.
his channel. I didn't
I
see
did,
it
I
in
did.
chat. Got it.
I did. We're in there.
You got
Hey,
you. Got you.
P-Mac.
Awesome. Hi,
I
man.
might get glow on oxygen or something, but I got plenty of dad jokes left.
Oh, well, thank goodness.
Alrighty, boys.
All right,
Later.
guys. We'll
Later,
be in touch.
P-Mac.
We'll see you guys.
Okay,
Thanks,
I'll
guys.
send you the file.
All right, great. See ya.
Okay. That's good, man. That's really good.
Yeah.
How is everyone doing on a Monday? Let's go. So as usual, we're gonna be right up against it. We got the workout. The workout I think is about 54 minutes long. So that puts me at about a 1 to 2 minute rebound Brian. I'm back. What is going on? Let's go with those biceps. So I'm a little late today because I got a new microphone and the damn microphone didn't work. So here we are. I tried to figure it out for like a half hour. Like, screw it, this is freaking annoying, and so here we are. Microphone was. It is a NEEWER. What is that thing? NW700. I don't know. I read it on a good review. I think it's just user error. You know. I think it's just me being a moron and not understanding how to use it. So we'll get it fixed up. We'll get it good at some point. That'll be my project today. Because why would I work? You know? What was I going to say? So, Thursday, I'm really excited. I'm going to get it. I'm going to go to bed nice and early on Wednesday so I can do my best with you guys. I'm very excited. I appreciate that invitation, so we'll get it going. Oh, Hannah. Hi, Hannah. With the emote. Good morning. How are you today? Life's good, isn't it? So we're doing the Road to Ruin today. So we're trying to get another badge right off the bat on a Monday. Let's talk about that, huh? I did the Fire and Ice. What's that? Oh, is that a health thing? Man, you're the best. Because it didn't come with any directions, so then I put, there's like a piece of paper and it with a QR code on it. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. It had a QR code in it, so I scanned it. I started filling out the paperwork, and then it was like, for technical issues. I'm like, oh, damn it, that's not what I wanted. I thought it was going to bring me to directions. So I will get that figured out, and it will look cool. And it's cool. I got a black and gold one that kind of goes with the theme of the whole, go for the goalie thing. It looks cool. I'll figure it out. Just like I didn't have a laptop at the beginning of all this. You just figure it out. You learn, piece everything step by step.
Still here. What's up, Jerry? What's up?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that badge, to be honest with you. I started with...
Open up the Alps here. Tempo, low cadence. So we're working on, really working on form today. See if we could catch up on some races here. To the stream, got some fun stuff. I stumbled upon a really good podcast / YouTube video series I'm gonna throw up here. I think you're gonna like. It's called Beyond the Limits. It features the Education First team and one of my idols, Alan Lynn from Scratch Labs, who I've been working with from way back in the day, early on. So super proud of it all. Asian American really making a difference. But yeah, let's check out this stream. Let me turn down my audio, bring in yours. We should be good.
When I started getting into performance and I started getting into cycling, and I would read these books about training, there was one common theme that was always discussed, and it was this kind of cause and effect relationship between what you did in training and your adaptive response or your performance. There's this old legendary story of Milan of Croton, who was this Greek Olympian. He was known as the world's strongest man. And the way that Milan would train is that he would begin each season by lifting a small baby calf. And every day he would lift this calf. And as this calf grew, so did Milan's strength, until one day he was able to carry a full-grown cow. there is this relationship between that dose and response, that power output, or that quantifiable workload, and your feel or your response that can't necessarily be pulled apart. They're intertwined. So oftentimes there's this question: do you train by the actual measurement, by the power, or do you train by the feel, by the response? And I think the answer is that you're always doing both all of the time, depending upon what you're capable of measuring. Where science is so interesting and where there's real innovation is that we're always figuring out new ways to measure things, right? But the fact of the matter is we always still live in our own bodies. We're always still acutely aware of whether or not we are in pain or feel good or struggling or having the best day of our life. You can't separate the two. If you're able to do a certain power output and feel good, well, that's a positive sign. If you're able to lift that cow and you feel like shit, well, maybe lifting a big cow just feels like shit. There was this workout that I was doing with TJ Van Garderen, and it was a time trial workout where he was gonna do these repeats.
I go and it's this like slight drag uphill. It's like 2%, and it was a block headwind. And it just felt like I was creeping. I was mashing the gears, the cadence was low, and I was just laboring, and I was like, you know what, I'm digging myself a hole right now. Like I gotta call it. Before the distance was accomplished, he just sat up and he let go. We were kind of like, ah, crap, you know, he didn't hit the mark. He's, you know, not feeling good, etc. I think he was pretty bummed about it as well. It's like, yeah, you know, I'm just not feeling it. And then we go back, we analyze the file, and it was like, oh wow, I did 430 watts for 20 minutes. That's pretty good. But I felt like it's just slow because of all these other factors, but I'm actually going really good right now. The epiphany was, well, maybe you were feeling so bad because you had never been in those power bands before, because you've never pushed yourself that hard before. And so what ends up happening is that there's a recalibration once you have that epiphany. Once you have that epiphany, you go out and you're able to deal with that pain, you're able to deal with that struggle and not give up. Bring that power output to a whole nother level, and then back and forth, back and forth. There's always this battle between power and feel. The hope is ultimately that you become more intuitive, and on the flip side, we have better tools for measuring how we're performing. And I think those two things are ultimately married. They're in orbit with one another. You can't have one without the other. So I think that, you know, when we're giving workouts, I'm asking riders to pay attention to both power and to feel. And so there is this kind of third line that they're actually paying attention to, which is, how are those two things relating to each other? Is how I feel normal for that power output? Sometimes your body plays tricks on you, like you know what it feels like to ride a certain power, and in a race, if it doesn't feel good to ride that power, you think that something must be wrong, when really it's like, well, maybe it's just the race that's wearing on you. It's kind of impossible to tell a rider, hey, I just want you to go off of power today. It's also kind of impossible to tell a rider, hey, I want you to just go off of feel today. I think it's when you marry the two that you ultimately get the best result. That being said, I think we like to mix it up, right? Because when you pay attention to one variable versus another variable and you break apart that whole into distinct parts, you begin to dissect and learn more about yourself as an athlete. These tools are ultimately ways to give athletes feedback. And I think the coach's job is ultimately a way to reflect to the athlete what they're actually doing, and to give them the most accurate and unbiased information as you can get. The power meter is super cool because it doesn't lie. I mean, the power meter is a useful tool, but it can't be, it's not the gospel. If you're having to set pace on the front for a leader, the way Sky sets pace for Chris Froome, those guys will be looking at their power meters to make sure that they're setting an even pace. If you're forced to follow that pace, oftentimes you don't want to look at your power meter because you're just like, it doesn't matter what the power meter's saying, I just have to focus on the wheel in front of me.
You can look at our watts, we could tell you back off or pick it up if we need to, but I think if you just ride it, it'll do that automatically. In a team time trial, you're focusing more on speed. So I try to listen more to my cadence and the gear that I'm in.
Nice. No worries, Mitch.
So that I'm
all
not
good.
surging
Enjoy this.
on
This
the
is really
front.
good. You have a chance
It's
to turn
almost
it
like
up.
this
Check this
feeling
out.
of you have to absorb the wind and not try to slip through it, because a lot of times people in a team time trial, they get to the front and they think it's my turn to pull, and they just go super fast. That's what happens if they're focusing too much on power, because they'll be like, oh, I have to pull it this watt, but that watt might be just stringing the group in this accordion that's going to be an overall net slower speed than if you focus on feel and cadence. In an individual time trial, you're going to ride very much to power. You could be cooking in the first part, but if you're going to overpace it, you're going to pay for that in the second half.
The thing about power output is that it is something that we are measuring. It's something that is kind of happening after the fact. What drives that power output, that sometimes is actually way more interesting. And so much of what drives that is either the heat of a race or emotionality. It's not something that I don't think we necessarily logically think ourselves into doing. We could be on a workout and say, hey, I need to hold 250 watts or 300 watts, and we can have the mindset to rationally do that. But the best performances happen in a different place. A good example of this is TJ in the 2018 Tour of California time trial.
I went from Tour Romandy to a training camp in the Pyrenees, a training camp before California, and I was racing Tour of California. So it had been a while since I had seen my wife and girls. And I was sitting in the start tent, kind of like going through my head, okay, this corner, I had gone over in recon. And then all of a sudden I hear this, Dada, Dada, and I knew that voice, I could recognize that voice anywhere. It was Rylan. And I just like had a lump in my throat. I was so happy that they came. I was so surprised to see them. And I was just like, I have 40 seconds until I have to start. I have to go. I got to go do my job now. And okay, back in the game, head back in the game.
He launched out of the start gate with so much kind of adrenaline and ferocity.
One of the best time trials I've ever ridden. Got the stage victory, got the yellow jersey. It was a cool day.
He realized intellectually, like, hey, I might be way off pace. I might be going way harder than I know I can handle. But every time he tried to bring that power output down, it ended up drifting back up until he had to kind of relent or give in to his own emotion. And it was giving into that emotion that ultimately led to a really great time trial victory for TJ in the Tour of California. So we are in Girona, Spain, or just outside of Girona, Spain, at the PGA golf course. We are setting up for the team time trial practice. The whole entire squad is here. The whole entire staff is here. There's a whole lot that goes into preparation for the team time trial, not just on the rider side, but also on the staff side in terms of equipment, in terms of supplies, in terms of setup, in terms of getting all the trainers out together and all these riders out on the road at the same time. Today's workout is basically 3 efforts. They're going to be fairly short efforts, but very intense. And basically what the riders are going to suss out is how they, effectively skills and drills, how they're going to coordinate with one another, what order, what position, what kind of speeds they can hold, who's going to take X long pull, etc.
Remember all the things that we've practiced. So it's hands down at the back, a nice clear signal when you're changing. And how hard are we going, Pete?
Race pace.
Race pace.
Yeah.
For me, the main thing we want to do today is, I almost want there to be some mistakes, and we want to iron out some of the things that could go wrong on race day and get them fixed here. So we obviously need to go a certain speed to almost put people into the red to make them suffer and make them get things wrong, because it's easy when we're doing 80% efforts to get the communication right, do the signals right, make the change right, but then obviously when you're going 60k an hour, it's a lot more difficult. So
Ali, Mike, Ali. Come on, it's 70 k's an hour. Come on.
These guys have a really, really steep learning curve. They're all really, really powerful. They just need to work out the kinks, and that's what the next 2 days are for.
We get certain opportunities at certain times of year to practice together.
Training.
Luckily, a lot of the guys
Facility near us
on EF, Education First, live in Girona for most of the year. So we're able to kind of meet at service course and get on the TT bikes and run some drills. We've done that a few times throughout the year. So I think we probably get more practice than most teams at this discipline.
Many of these riders have already done team time trials together, but not this specific 8. So in many ways, this is a brand new experience for all of these riders.
How'd it go? Hasn't started yet. We're doing the race effort now.
How do you feel today?
Oh yeah, not bad.
Awesome, yeah.
It's good in the heat. Just like home.
How hot it is?
It's perfect.
Even though they're all highly experienced riders, the tightness, the proximity of the team time trial, especially in the aero bars, is really, really intense. And so them just getting familiar with it and getting coordinated is the main goal for today.
On the radio, I'm going to talk like I would in a race. So with the same terminology. So if you guys do the same thing and the same gestures as we've agreed, so that means you're going to skip a turn, right? That means you're going to come back in. I'm going to tell you if we're missing anybody how many we're rotating in. So we're rotating in 7 or 6 or whatever. I'll say change, right? If you need to make a change at the front that it's bunching up in the back. I'll say shorter turns, faster turns, all that normal stuff. But even though it's going to sound like a race, we're still on open roads, right? So we're going to keep it safe.
From the first effort to the second was quite a big difference. And that's just the main goal, trying to improve. A lot of us, maybe have never done team time trial with each other, so it's just kind of learning how we all fit in, how we're all riding, or how we all ride technique-wise, and just trying to help each other get the best possible result for the team.
There's really 2 efforts that you have to make with each turn of a team time trial. There's the effort you do on the front and the effort you do to get back on the back. If you miss getting back in that slipstream even by 1 meter, you're going to be gone because you can't close that meter. That surge to get back on, I think that's underestimated because that's oftentimes harder than the pull itself.
So when these guys are going full tilt, it can be really, really hard for them to communicate. There's going to be, I think, a lot of chaos initially in the first few efforts, but it's all about communication. It's all about talking to one another.
So a lot of the communication is done from the car. However, if you're in the line and you feel it's slowing up in front of you, you will shout change, which then the person on the front gets off. But we try and keep the communications between the riders really short and simple. There's only about 3 commands that they will give each other. They will do change, the person on the front, ease if it's too hard, and they'll shout wait if someone, a designated rider, maybe we have 2 or 3 guys that we might wait for, if it's our GC man for example, then it will be like wait, which basically means stop.
You got a camera on TJ Van Garderen. It has his power output, his cadence, his speed.
Yep.
TJ was doing about 450, 480 on the front.
Yeah. So we will drop down to 300 and then speed up again.
Yeah.
And we don't like a 600 peak in the end.
He did have a nice transition though, especially as we saw that last rider.
You see a big difference, and it also depends on the type of rider.
Yeah.
If you got a sprint type, it's not a problem to push for 5 seconds 800 watts.
Yeah.
But like the endurance-based riders won't like that.
Yeah, it's not a good circle. Like for Mike Woods, it's not a good thing, right?
No. As a rider, you're not paying attention to all the details we can see from the car or from the camera.
Yeah.
You're just focusing on the wheel in front of you.
Yeah.
So on purpose, we have done some short turns in front, which makes it a bit more difficult to get it really smooth.
You're trying to force mistakes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And that's so critical because
and they make them. Yeah.
And eliminate them because if you don't test the system, if you don't try to crack the system now.
If you have 3 strong riders and you tell them go 40 seconds in front, it will roll really smooth.
Yeah.
And we don't want to see that in training.
Yeah, you want to push the envelope a little bit.
Yeah.
There's still a couple of things that we need to get dialed, maybe as far as, you know, the order, but I think as far as pacing and as far as how smooth we ride together, I think we're really there. To get 8 riders to ride like one and to leave their egos at the door and to all fully commit and all be kind of aware of what their strengths and weaknesses are it's a hard thing to have all come together. I think we'll be one of the favorites for the Tour de France Stage 2. You know, we're in there with a shot.
Obviously, the measure of success in the team time trial is speed. But what's really interesting about any great team time trial is that you don't need the strongest team to get the fastest speed. You need the most cohesive team. You need the most well-coordinated team, right? If one rider can hold, you know, 50K an hour for 1 minute, but another rider can only hold that for 30 seconds, you want to be able to maximize that speed and maximize each rider's potential. So some riders might be taking pulls as long as 2 minutes. Another rider might be taking pulls only as short as 30 seconds. Other riders might be sitting on for 2 or 3 rotations before they come through. They've got to work all of that out today, right? And once they work that out, and once they get that cohesion, that's what creates the fastest potential speed. We're gonna do a little sodium sweat collection today. The way that we do it is with a device called a macroduct collector. Essentially, it's a plastic disc with a capillary tube inside, and there's a tiny hole with a little bit of food coloring on the backside so you know how filled it is. And essentially, we're gonna put it on your forearm. It forms an airtight seal. I'm gonna take some tape and basically tape it on there. And we'll probably do 1 forearm each so that we get 2 samples. And then after you're done with that 10-minute effort, I'm gonna collect and put it in your individual bags, come back here and analyze, and we'll know how salty your sweat is. Effectively, we want our drink mix to be as close to your sweat as possible. So if we know that your sweat is 700 milligrams per liter, that's ideally where we want Scratch to be, but here's the problem. Your sweat might be 1,500 milligrams per liter, right? It might be double that. And so the scenario becomes, we know how many bottles of, say, Hyper or Wellness you need to drink relative to a regular bottle of Scratch. Or if you're lower, let's say you're 400 milligrams, super low, you know how many bottles of Scratch per bottle of water you need to drink. So it ends up becoming a ratio that you guys are now informed about in terms of what you need to do to ideally drink to optimize your hydration. The question I'm going to ask you guys that I want you to think about between now and the next time we stop is what causes you to become thirsty? Is what controls thirst between now and the next stop? Especially Lawson's thirst. He's so thirsty.
I don't want it to melt. I will come back for it at some point. It's not yours, it is mine.
Nobody touched this.
Yeah.
That thing would not be a bunny.
Keep it in a well ventilated, cool environment, please. All right, let's roll.
It's really good info.
Yeah, what do you want?
These are all mixes?
Yeah, they're all mixes.
All right, guys, why do we get thirsty?
Yeah, totally.
Sodium
Right?
to
Alan Lim's my idol, man.
water ratio is off.
Okay, yeah, sodium balance. Sodium concentration in the blood is off. Our blood gets too salty, we get thirsty, so we eat a meal, sushi, soy sauce, we get thirsty, we need water.
There's
We
the whole
sweat, we
index.
lose more
Wanna go
water
back?
than salt. Blood
Save that
concentration
list.
goes up, we get thirsty. We sit around in an office all day, breathing too hard, salt goes up, we get thirsty. Answer me this question. If I'm drinking just plain water, I'm losing 1,000 milligrams of salt per liter of water. Your blood is about 3,000 or 3,500 milligrams of sodium per liter. Let's say I lose a whole liter of water. How much plain water do I have to drink to not be thirsty? You can think about it, discuss until the next stop, or if you've got the answer right now, bring it.
Not enough.
not enough to replace the liter because you've lost salt also, right? To get the concentration back up, you don't need as much water because there's not as much salt in the pool anymore. So you don't have to fill the pool up to the same level in order to get the concentration just right. And that your body cares more about the electrolyte concentration or the sodium concentration than it cares about how much water you have on board.
Take that test, Jerry. That's a good one. And I'll give you some math to figure how much you need on and off the bike. Super interesting.
Thanks, bro. Look at this bad boy. This is what dreams are made of.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, you know.
Does your sweat
So just do the
sodium
math.
concentration vary based on
You'll get real close.
hydration levels, or you always sweat the same amount of salt every time you sweat?
Generally speaking, there's a big genetic influence. So you as an individual versus Woods as an individual, you guys have your own specific range that you'll be in. But as you get more heat acclimatized and as you get more fit, your sodium sweat will be more dilute. So one of the adaptations to all of this heat training and getting ready for a Grand Tour is that you're not as salty as you would be, say, in the middle of the winter time, right? So there is that variance, there is that change. And so this value here is probably really representative of what we see in the summer, and this is why I wanted to get it as close to the tour to make sure that we got a picture of now rather than before. So that's a good question. That being said, there's a huge genetic variance. Someone might be as low as, say, 300, 400 milligrams of sodium per liter. Someone might be as high as 2,000 milligrams of sodium per liter. On average, we see Grand Tour riders like you guys in the 700 to 800 milligrams of sodium per liter. Huge genetic variance because if you think about civilization and you know the salt trade, basically cities were built around where there was salt, and if you lived in a location where you lost a lot of salt but couldn't get a lot of salt, you were probably dead. So big evolutionary influences on our sodium sweat. It just needs to feel snug, but not too tight.
Will the bag have any room to fill up, or how does that work?
So once it starts filling up, there's another port, and so if you overfill, it'll just push it out. And then whatever gets captured inside the tube will stick in the tube. And
3 sectors
it doesn't evaporate because the endings are too narrow. You're gonna do a 10-minute medial effort, right? Or an effort that makes you sweat pretty good. 10 minutes, no longer. That's it, guys.
Sweet. All right.
You guys ever think about, we talked about electrolytes, we talked about water, but why do we put sugar in the drink? And what kind of sugar?
Carbohydrates.
What does the carbohydrate do besides give you fuel?
Hydrate.
Why?
Here it is. This is
For
it.
every 2
This is the
molecules of
secret.
sodium, right, in the drink, plus 1 molecule of glucose that's actively transported, it facilitates the transport of water into the gut. Basically, it opens up a channel in the gut that moves in 210 molecules of water. So having salt and carbohydrate in a drink moves more water across the gut than water alone.
So awesome. 3 sectors left. Yeah.
Okay? But fast? That's all that matters. I think you won. Yeah.
Oh, so man.
Yo, dude, I got your sweat analysis test done. If I were to say extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, what would you think you are for salt loss? You'd say medium?
Yeah.
You're a medium. So medium is about 1,000 milligrams of sodium loss per liter, and you're about 1,079, 1,080. And to give you some perspective, for every 7 to 8 bottles that you drink on the road, you need to have like a hyperhydration or a salty drink, or you need to be consuming
some of the savory foods or savory rice cakes. And maybe that's why you like the savory rice cakes. Like every time you stop, you go for the salty stuff, man.
Yeah, so true.
Keep on loving salt. There's not quite enough salt if the sweatingers are making the drink a little diluted, so you got to go for the salty foods. And every, again, 7 to 8 bottles, you got to be getting a hyperhydration. Good job on intuitively knowing yourself. Keep up taking care of yourself with that sodium intake during the tour. One thing that I was going to tell you guys yesterday is that the best thing you can do to maintain your performance over 3 weeks is to always be hydrated, because acute dehydration can actually cause red blood cells to die as your blood gets really viscous and thick. It's something called neocytolysis, and it happens when like boxers try to make weight by dehydration. So stay hydrated and you'll continue to perform better, and a big part of that is making sure you get enough salt. All right, Woods.
Thanks so much for all the help this week, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Bonne journée, Tour de France.
Thanks, man.
Au revoir.
Well, that's weird. Huh. Nice.
We are in the Boulder Bubble, beautiful Boulder, Colorado. I'm Dr. Alan Lim, and this is the Collegiate All-Star Training Camp. Essentially, this is a pre-acclimatization camp before the Colorado Classic. We've got the best collegiate riders from around the country who will be riding as the U.S. national team at this year's race. Ahead of this race, a big goal is just to get these athletes acclimatized to altitude. And so one of the things we're doing ahead of the race is actually taking a few easy days to practice a ton of skills and drills. Cornering skills, grabbing bags from the feed zone skills, bunny hopping skills. What people forget is that not only are you the engine in a bike race, but you're also the driver. And having really great driving skills, turning skills, handling skills is of utmost importance to be a great bike racer. All of these athletes are already super talented, but it doesn't hurt to have more and more practice. And we have some all-star athletes helping to coach these collegiate all-stars, including Mike Friedman, Olympian in Beijing Olympics,
Nice.
Taylor Finney, a pro for EF,
What?
Dee Barry, who won the silver medal in the Olympic time trial. It's a pretty great crew to help these athletes gain all the skills they need ahead of the Colorado Classic. So the athletes that we have with us this week include
Kara O'Neill, University of Arizona.
Charlotte Backus, Fort Lewis College.
Anna Christian, CU Boulder. Sammy Reynolds, Savannah College of Art and Design, Atlanta.
Hi, my name is Madeline Bemis and I'm from Milligan College.
Emma Edwards from MIT.
Because these athletes are all coming from different schools, coming in to be one team, we have a really short period of time to get them super cohesive. So aside from what we're gonna do on the bike for training, we're also gonna do a lot of time just hanging out, having great meals together, to bond over great food, and to get to know one another. Today's gonna be, I think, a really fun day. This is not about necessarily training physicality, it's about training skills, it's about training mind, it's about having a ton of fun. We've got Mike Friedman and Taylor Finney who are setting up a course for you guys over at the Stasio softball field right now. And for Taylor and Mike to be so excited to set up cones for a skills and drills clinic, I think is pretty special. They're going to introduce all the things they want to do with you today when we get out there. So I'll let them talk about that.
The basic gist of this is setting up your line into your corner. So typically you'll see a cone and you kind of want to go straight for it and then turn, but this is set up in a way to where you really have to come wide for a lot of the corners and pick your line, and the more times you do the laps, the more comfortable you'll get with that line and understanding that line.
We'll also be looking at your cornering techniques. We're going to watch your speed through the corners as well, and you're going to get faster at it. And no matter how good of a cyclist you are, you can always improve and practice your skills, even in a parking lot. As simple as turning. And you can actually learn how to go faster through the turns. I guess the last thing would be the one-handed stuff too. We're going to be doing the one-handed stuff.
Yeah, let's just do a couple laps and
Yeah,
we'll come
can
back
you take
here
us
after a
through
little while.
the course?
Yeah, Denzel and I will...
Okay, let's watch.
Are you guys sighting your turn when you come through? You must be, because you're going through the turns fast. So are you guys actually looking through the turn to the next area where you got to turn?
Yeah. That's one thing that Taylor said that I haven't really been doing.
Yeah, you're keeping your head up and looking where you want to go. Set up wide, looking way left.
Nice.
So learning how to ride one-handed when you go through a feed zone, those musette bags tend to be heavy. Whether you're grabbing a bottle, you're still riding one-handed. Sometimes you get to brake riding one-handed. If you're grabbing your musette bag, you throw your weight off, you're riding one-handed, sometimes in traffic in a Peloton, right? So I have these tennis ball drills where you grab a ball and try to ride a whole lap with one hand off with the ball in your hand. And having an object in your hand disrupts the idea that you can get back to your handlebar quickly. But if you're not comfortable taking the ball, just ride one-handed and just see how much better you get riding one-handed, because you still have to ride one-handed. The ball is just a drill to take the ball and put it in the next tube or carry it for a lap. But if you can grab a ball and put it in the tube and brake with one hand, it's just forcing you to brake with one hand while having your hand off and thinking about doing something different versus just riding around and thinking about braking and riding one-handed. So it gives you a task to do. So riding one hand is an ideal thing just to get ready for the next part, which would be the musette bag grabbing. When we're riding, you also have to do, like, communicate, right? So if you're not comfortable riding one-handed with your left hand, practice your left hand too, because you got to do your hand signals. You got to be able to look over your shoulder, and, you know, it's not just about racing. You still have to be able to ride one-handed too.
This is probably
Good morning, guys. Morning.
Amount of
Trying to learn
pressure
something here.
Yeah, I think so.
The most important thing is, like, you want to keep distance between you and this heavy ass bag.
Well, what would you say is like the best field positioning to be? Because sometimes it's like I've noticed it's the pace during the feed zone, at least in the women's field. It's a lot of the times it's just a super high pace because everyone's like trying to get differentiated into their certain spots of like, oh, okay, I don't need it, but you need it. And so, like,
I like to be in the front.
Yeah, like crashes can happen anywhere, but your odds of crashing are much lower when you're in the front of the peloton at any point in the race. Right?
That's probably why it gets faster.
There's also a serious yo-yo effect that happens in the feed zone because the people handing out feed bags are coming into the road. So the road is already narrowing, and then people are slowing down to grab a bag.
Yeah, I recommend practicing
for sure. Getting worse as you get further and further back. It's like being in traffic, and then everything lines out, and it's like a whip.
If that gap opens up and you're like, you've been in the red for a while, you're not going back. You're not gonna make it back.
Especially when you're carrying a heavy,
right? So
you get 2 bottles and a heavy bag, and it's laboring, and it swings in front of you. It's like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You know?
It's honestly like one of the worst times of the race.
It's awful.
Yeah, super important. Super important.
In addition to skills and drills this week, we're also going to have a climbing day where we're going to train specifically not just the climbing skills, the pacing skills required,
high
but
cadence,
also the tactical
recovery
skills
here
to help a team leader set up for a climb. For a lot of these athletes, it's not just about how well they can climb, it's how well they can support their best climbers
try to enjoy the
coming
training, man.
into the mountains. That could be critical. Katie Hall's going to be racing for this team, and she won this race last year. And so these athletes are really here as super domestiques to support her. A lot of climbing, especially in higher elevations, is about finding that spot right below where you blow up and just pinning it there, holding it there, right? So while racing is still going to be non-steady, you got to watch that because you can really, really detonate sky high up here. You know, generally speaking on these climbs, you can climb pretty relaxed, right? Relaxed upper body, relaxed hands, etc. But when you hit the steep section on these climbs, it's like all body.
Yeah, you gotta, it's a good practice to just get out of the saddle and surge over the steep pitches, you know, in the switchbacks, and keep a good rhythm that way.
Info. Totally. We got one more there. Just headed back to the start line. There we go, there we go.
Hi, I'm Dr. Alan Lim, and today we are in the Applied Exercise Science Laboratory,
Nice.
where I actually did my doctoral work under the direction of Dr. William Burns. We're here today
Wow.
with Anna Christian, who is the reigning Collegiate Club Criterium National Champion. We've got Peter and Dylan, and we're going to be doing some laboratory testing today to better understand her performance.
So I'm targeting 192 here.
Get those legs moving.
You come
Get
into
those
an
legs
environment
cleared
like this
out.
for three reasons.
This is
One, to understand how you stack
maximize
up against
lactating,
others.
shuttling,
Two, to
removal
compare
of lactate
yourself
from the legs.
with yourself over time to understand how you're
190,
training,
205
or how
is what
your
I'm
fitness
looking
might be
at.
changing over time.
Go fresh on
And
the bottom,
three,
that's
to
where.
get some variables that can help determine some basic training intensity zones. In this environment, we're going to be able to measure three key things. We're going to be able to measure her lactate threshold. We're going to be able to measure her oxygen consumption to get her VO2 max. And we're also going to be able to measure her oxygen consumption for a given power output, which gives us her economy or gross mechanical efficiency, essentially a measure of miles per gallon. Now, what's interesting about these three parameters, VO2 max, lactate threshold, and economy, is that they all relate to performance, but they don't necessarily relate to each other. So if I've got someone with a high maximal oxygen consumption or a high peak power output, it doesn't necessarily mean that they also have a high lactate threshold or that they're very efficient. Now, what's also unique about this environment is that by knowing or understanding some of these physiological variables, we can better understand what this athlete might be best suited for and give them some direction with respect to their training. A lot of this information you can do on your own, either on a trainer, out in the field during a time trial test, or if you have a power meter, you can also measure this on the road. So the first thing we need to do a test like this is we need to have an ergometer. We're using the H3 from Ceres. We're using it to control both resistance as well as to measure power output. In today's protocol, we're going to be starting her out at a fairly easy intensity, something that she considers to be light, and then every 4 minutes, we're going to be increasing by about 25 watts, and we'll do that with this trainer. The next thing we have is we have a metabolic cart. The metabolic cart allows us to measure how much oxygen she's consuming, as well as how much CO2 she's expiring. This gives us a measure of how much energy she is burning, right? Because oxygen consumption is directly related to that energy cost. And by measuring how much CO2 she blows off, that ratio of oxygen to CO2 gives us an understanding of what kind of fuel she's burning. Lastly, we'll be measuring blood lactate. Effectively, we're going to be taking a small sample of blood every stage, so at every increment of power towards the end of that stage, to assess her blood lactate level. Your max VO2 or your maximal aerobic capacity is indicative of your health status, indicative of how strong your cardiovascular system is. Your VO2 max is only one parameter that indicates your fitness level or your potential for an aerobic sport like cycling. Your peak power output is also one of those variables, and the two effectively go hand in hand. The peak amount of power that you can hold for, say, a 5 to 10 minute period of time is probably directly proportional to that VO2 max. So in addition to all of these physiological variables, we also ask her how she is feeling using a rating of perceived exertion chart. Essentially, it's a little scale that goes from 6 to 20, no exertion at all, to maximal exertion, and descriptors everywhere in between, because it's also important for us to understand how she's feeling throughout this test. And perceived exertion, feel, is a key variable in terms of controlling training intensity. If we can give them some perspective on how these variables relate to their own sense of feel, it makes training a little easier, especially in very dynamic situations. This idea of lactate threshold is extraordinarily confusing because so many people have so many different ways of defining it. Today, we're actually looking at the concentration of blood lactate, and we're looking for a point where it's steady and then suddenly starts to increase. Specifically, we're going to be looking at where
yeah, they
the
do.
blood lactate is
Can you
about
imagine?
1 millimole above baseline.
Jackets
This
in
gives
the lab.
us an intensity that we know most
It's
athletes
got to be like
can
60
hold
degrees in
going
there.
all out for about 2 hours. So effectively, this is akin to marathon pace. In cycling, there are all of these other terms that are being used for threshold. For example, functional threshold power is a common term. Functional threshold power is a little different than how we might be defining lactate threshold, because it really is a power output that you can hold for 1 hour. One important thing about threshold is that this is something that you assess if you're challenging yourself to go as hard as possible for a given time frame. So if you see a functional threshold power that is being generated by an algorithm, say on Zwift or Training Peaks, because they know your power output, what they don't know is if you're truly testing yourself. So while you can measure your threshold power on your own, on a trainer or out in the field with a power meter, you have to be in the mindset of challenging yourself and going as hard as you can for that given time frame. While there still might not be a perfect correlation, it all goes south if you're not actually working as hard as possible.
Oh, ramp.
So whether you're measuring threshold by actually looking at blood lactate, by using perceived exertion, or looking at peak sustainable pace, one of the keys is the ability to control your power output. One of the easiest ways is with a smart trainer. You can set your power output at a very low intensity and slowly increase the intensity over time using stages of appreciable length, say 3 to 4 minutes. And basically, you can test where that point of somewhat hard to very hard happens. You can assess essentially your ventilatory response and see where that point of respiration begins to break. You could even look at your heart rate response, and there's been an old test called the Conconi test, which works for some, doesn't work for others, where you might actually even see an inflection in your heart rate. Ultimately, I tend to think that going by feel works pretty well, and if you've got a way to increment your power output, you can assess where that transition occurs, and over time, as you retest yourself, you can see if that same exact point moves or changes, and that's ultimately an indication that you've gotten fitter. We ultimately test for 3 reasons. We test to get a baseline of yourself compared to other people. We test to see that baseline relative to ourselves over time. And we also test to get physiological variables like lactate threshold that can help us to determine some training intensity zones for a given period of time. We accomplished all of that today with Anna. We know that she is as fit as any female athlete who's ever come into this laboratory. That's a great perspective. We'll be able to test her again at some point in time and see how much she improves as she continues to mature as an athlete and as she gets more miles under her legs. And we've got a lactate threshold value that we can use to establish some training intensity zones for her as she is entering kind of the off season. Ultimately, you can feel a lot of these parameters, and if you've got a controlled environment where you can actually measure this stuff, especially power output, all of these 3 things can be accomplished. You can compare yourself against other people, compare yourself against yourself, and you can reestablish training intensity zones. I think the big part of all of this testing is ultimately about being kind of vulnerable to where you are at any given point in time so that you can make increments to get where you want to go. And one of the difficulties ultimately is that translation between where you want to be with where you actually are. It just takes time, it takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of work.
So let's do that. Over there. Chill. It's at the bottom here. So, audio's back good. So one more list. Let's see. Oh, it's in my personal page. Couple things apart. Okay. Let's see. Okay, huh? How do you set up YouTube live video viewers? You mean to send my live stream to YouTube? Is that what you're asking? We use Restream. Has more viewers. Is that the question? Do you stream to live to YouTube now? We use restream.io. Yeah, Restream. Okay. You just need to, I guess, get your question. You trying to get more viewers on YouTube, or you trying to send it to YouTube? I can, here, let's do this. Restream. IO. Now let's go back. All right. Let me sign in. Log in. All right, let me change this up. Let me get my cadence sorted out. And drop. There we go. All right. Okay, so I've got set there. Here we go. All right, so I've got the restream here. If you need to add channels, all you have to do is hit here and use YouTube. Is that what you're doing right now? And then that will bring the service in right now. We have a couple. You go back page. We have YouTube. Yeah. Oh, maybe from the YouTube page then. So there's here. We switch. ODZ. And you have the stream. No, I need to be on ODZ. And you have the stream key, obviously, right? Oh man, what happened? There we go. Then you go here. You go to Studio. And where's it? Videos. No. Huh. Live. It's way back when. No. Settings. Channel. Oh man. We got the stream key. That's good. Creator. Oh man, it's on the live. Oh, live count. Oh. Oh, you're killing me. Got it. Alright, let me get you there. Streamlabs. Login. Yeah. Let me log in. Hold on. Streamlabs.com. So go here. Set up. Skip this. Finish. Who my logged in is. Okay. Okay, so streamlabs.com. You need an account. Go to all widgets. And come on. Where is it? Come on. Viewer account. Right here. Okay. Connect all your accounts. So I've got 10 on Twitch. You could add YouTube, Mixer, obviously defunct. So Make sure I'm logged in as me. I have a feeling this is personal. So what you do is you click Twitch, YouTube, and then you hit this. You see this? You use this URL, and then go to OBS, the next stats. And you do a browser source like this. Yeah, it might be new. So yeah, YouTube browser, that'll do it there. You got it. That should do it, my friend. There you go. Just go back to that and activate it. You should be good. I don't even know where I'm going. I said 3 hour mark. Yeah, there probably wasn't. It is now though. So you're good to go, man. You'll get it. All right, I think we're good. 3 hours, 4 horsemen, got lost, and I'm back. So we're good. Thanks for joining on, everybody. Really appreciate it. Matt, good job on your workout yesterday. Zeke, thanks for dropping in, saying what's up. Jerry, always good hanging out. D-Mac, the Grinch, Doom, great job. Thanks for holding out on us, working with us today. Hope you enjoyed the videos. Check out those links from Velo News on YouTube. Really great information there. So other than that, check us out on TeamODZ.com, EnduranceLab.fit, where you can train smart and get results. We'll see you in the next live stream.